Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the World Tour of Assetto Corsa Competizione Season 1, as brought to you by NXTGEN Racing in collaboration with the SimGrid and Coach Dave Academy. That's right, with 2022 here, it is time for us to kick off the first of what could be many World Tours on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform on PC, and it will all be brought to you kicking off tonight with round number 1 of 8, and we'll talk about the circuit where we're at very shortly, but our schedule for tonight is as follows. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT or UTC. In approximately 20 minutes time, we'll be kicking off with the driver's briefing, while drivers will all be ushered into the virtual Discord room, that being a voice over internet protocol voice chat service, in order to be able to hear the ins and outs from our driver's steward. We'll then be taken to qualifying for 15 minutes, and that will be at 7:30 tonight, so straight after the driver's briefing, and following that we'll be kicking off the race, the one and only feature race. That'll be 90 minutes in length, starting at approximately 7:45 and ending at just after 9:15. And after that, approximately 9:20, we'll be bringing you our post-race interviews with our podium finishers. In the commentary box, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and tonight's broadcast is being brought to you via one of 3 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you're YouTube inclined, you can tune in via the official NXTGEN Racing YouTube channel, that's NXTGEN Racing on YouTube. Alternatively, if you are a Facebook user, you can tune in via facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, or last but not least, if you are Twitch inclined, you can tune in via twitch.tv/TX141, my personal Twitch channel. Now, talking about this series being sponsored, and we're back with the SimGrid and Coach Dave Academy for another season of Assetto Corsa Competizione Racing as part of the NXTGEN team here. Well, let's introduce our 2 primary sponsors, without whom this would not be possible. So we start off with the SimGrid, and the SimGrid is a place for amateur and professional sim racers to compete against fellow drivers in leagues and endurance events for primarily Assetto Corsa Competizione, but also gradually expanding into the world of R-Factor 2, and also I think in the near future there could even be on the cards iRacing, some premier sim racing platforms, and it is the case the SimGrid is continuing to expand. Whether you're looking to race in a one-off event, alternatively a long-term series, the SimGrid has got it all. And if you want to know more about the SimGrid, be sure to head to www.thesimgrid.com for further information. The SimGrid are supporting us in running this series through hosting it through their website, and on top of that as well, contributing a number of their professional staff to our live stewarding. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, these races are all live stewarding, and we have members of the NXTGEN Racing stewarding team in collaboration with the SimGrid stewarding team working together to conduct that live stewarding and also post-race stewarding. So with SimGrid in mind, we also have Coach Dave Academy. Now, Coach Dave Academy is the home of amateur and professional sim racers looking to up their game through coaching, setups and track maps. Whether you're looking to gain a tenth of a second, a whole second, or just find a more comfortable way to set up the car for your driving preference, Coach Dave Academy's got it all through free and paid support. Indeed, plenty of coaching material out there, whether you're looking to just get some for free, some advice for some great names within the sim racing industry, such as David Burrell, also a professional real-world racer, of course, as part of the GT World Challenge and Blancpain. We've also got the likes of James Parker, for example, and indeed all there to help you in order to be able to nurture and flourish as a sim racer on a Assetto Corsa Competizione, and also more recently expanding into the world of iRacing. So if you're interested, why not check out CoachDaveAcademy.com today and take your racing to the next level. That website again, CoachDaveAcademy.com. Now, going from our sponsor, without whom it would not be possible to be able to bring you this season, Coach Dave Academy are contributing in terms of spreading the word of the series and helping us run things in the background. Let's look ahead to the calendar. So as you can see, there are 8 rounds as presented on the calendar here, and it all begins today at Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands. It is the 15th of February 2022, and we'll go from Zandvoort to in a week's time to Imola in Italy, then over to the United States for Laguna Seca, then to South Africa in round number 4 for Kyalami, then to Snetterton in the United Kingdom for round number 5, then all the way across the other side of the world to Australia at Bathurst or Mount Panorama in round number 6, and then a week after that, the Hungaroring in the centre of Europe for round number 7, and then last but not least, we head back to Italy for the conclusion at Misano on the 5th of April 2022. 8 weeks ahead, 8 fantastic weeks of racing, and it all kicks off at Circuit Zandvoort tonight. Now, to complement this, we have 38 entrants in this series, and as you can see here, and spread across 2 images, starting off with our first set of 20 entrants here, and in no particular order, although we do, of course, introduce our championship winner from the NXTGEN Racing Intercontinental Championship Challenge last year at the end of 2021, concluding just before Christmas Day, and Tinko van der Velde, they're our number 1 driver, and he is returning into this series in the Mercedes AMG Evo, so moving away from his previous previous choice of car and moving to the Mercedes. Will he be able to pull off a repeat series of success? We'll have to wait and see. We've also got the runner-up from the Intercontinental Championship, and that is Luke Whitehead, coming back in his venerable Porsche 911 GT3R. Also Marcus Fox, another returning name. Many of you will know Marcus Fox perhaps not being the fastest driver out there, but one of the most strategic and consistent that we know of. Kevin Gellan from ITR returns in the Ferrari 488 Evo. Simon here in the Mercedes AMG Evo, and plenty of additional new names there as well as returning names. For example, Cody Cosford bringing out the McLaren 720S for Bollers Esport. We've also got there Tobias Linden in the Aston Martin Racing V8 Vantage Racing for SLS Racing. Also Joe Coffin in the Porsche 911 GT3R. Christian Lembrini returned for Cortec Racing there. He'll be in the Mercedes AMG Evo. We've also got Martin Van Munsten from SAS Racing, Slow and Steady Racing in the Aston Martin Racing V8 Vantage. And Dennis Sharapenin returning in the Mercedes AMG Evo for SMPR Motorsport. We also, outside of these 20, we have a further 18 drivers to introduce. And again, some familiar names to you and also some brand new names to us at NXTGEN Racing, but may be more well known outside of NXTGEN Racing indeed. We've got some big names here. We've got Rafael Dinardo here taking part in the Mercedes AMG Evo, also part of Cortec Racing. We've got Darren King, of course, known as Dow King on the media platforms such as YouTube, and he'll be taking part in this series in the BMW M4, though I'm hearing he's not present tonight, but he should be joining us as of next week in round number 2. We've also got Ivan Fornes, the Jokers Esport Racing Team driver in the BMW M4. Harry Phillips, a name that we know and love, participating in the majority of the seasons that we've hosted with the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform, and he'll be taking to the circuits in the Porsche 911 GT3R, not returning in the venerable Bentley Continental. But one driver who will be in the Bentley Continental is David Boega, who is going to be taking part as of this series, kicking all off tonight. We've also got Pavlo Denisenko there in the Bentley, and then looking over to the right hand side, some more familiar names and also some names that you may remember of old, such as Joshua Allen, who, if I do remember correctly, I may be wrong, Joshua Allen did participate in the Season 1 of the European GT3 Championship, unless I'm confusing him for another Joshua, and he's back in the McLaren 720S. We've also got the returnee of Gareth Mills there from GM Racing, the Porsche 911 GT3R, and then last but not least, a new name to the series, but by no means to be underestimated, Presney Martano in the Mercedes AMG Evo. Well, that's our 38 drivers all listed there, and what are they competing for, I hear you ask? Well, there is a huge prize pool up for grabs here. A monetary prize pool totaling of 1,000 United States dollars is to be won, and it is to be split across 5 winners as follows. Our championship winner come the end of it, this is only a driver's championship. There is no team or constructors championship. It's purely a drivers championship. Our winner will be taking home 50% of the prize pool, and that will be 500 United States dollars. Plus, they also receive free entry to any paid entry NXTGEN Racing Championship in 2022, and that is a prize that goes to all of our winners. Second place will take home 30% of the prize pool, so that's $300. Third place will be taking home 15% of the prize pool, so $150. Fourth will be taking home 5% of the prize pool, that's $50. And our fifth place finisher won't be receiving a monetary prize, but they will get a free ticket to any paid entry NXTGEN Racing Championship in 2022. So a little bit of a financial prize if they do come back for a future series. Now, as for our circuit tonight, where it all kicks off then, the story begins and the rivalries will start to simmer. We are at Circuit Zandvoort in Zandvoort, North Holland, the Netherlands, and as you can see from the circuit map here provided to us by simracingwiki.com, this circuit quite recently returning to the calendar for Formula 1, for example, in the 2021 calendar, and I believe back on the calendar for 2022. This circuit is a staple of GT World, and also on top of that, Assetto Corsa Competizione, consisting of 14 corners, and as we are going to see when we ride on board of our drivers for their qualifying sessions, this track is a very tricky one, given the fact that there's a large number of overtaking opportunities. Pretty much the vast majority of corners offer overtaking opportunities, but also there are a variety of camber-based corners, some very high-angle corners, particularly turn 1, and also the run all the way down through turn number 7. We've also got turn 3, who cannot forget the very steep nature of turn number 3. We've also got a good number of sweepers, such as turn 7, turns 8, 9 and 10, and then we've also got a very tricky chicane in the form of turns 11 and 12, which will a pair of flowing corners, I should say, through turns 13 and 14 to complete the lap. There's a little something for everyone here at Zandvoort, and it indeed will present our drivers with the ultimate starting test. Now, as for our rules, because without rules, we would not be going racing. In general, the balance of performance used for all cars featured in this series shall be the base 2021 variant. as provided by Kunos Simulation as part of Assetto Corsa Competizione, and based of course on the GT World Challenge Balance of Performance for 2021. And success balance shall be featured in this series, and it shall be applied to the top 5 finishers of each race as follows, as shown in the table here, with said drivers carrying this ballast into the next race. Now, to translate that into English for you, what does that mean? If a driver comes first in round number 1 today, going into the next round, into round number 2, they will take ballast into the car for race number 2 or round number 2. But if they were to then finish outside the top 5 for what is round number 2, going into round number 3, even if they're still leading the championship at that point, as I understand it, they will not have the ballast. So the ballast is race result dependent, and it goes from race to race. So as a result, it will be the case that our first place finishers in what is race number 1 or round number 1 tonight will be taking 20 kilograms to round number 2. Second place will take 16 kilograms. Third place, 12 kilograms. Fourth place, 8 kilograms. And fifth place, 4 kilograms. And outside that, from 6th all the way down to 38th, we're taking no success ballast in the car. Outside of these rules, the general rules, what about in qualifying? Well, drivers are not permitted to use return to garage unless given an explicit statement in the driver's briefing that they are allowed to. They're not allowed to use return to garage whilst out on circuit. They must enter the pit lane before using return to garage. They must park in the pit lane, and then they can use return to garage to jump to their pit box. In the race, there are 2 mandatory pit stops, which will require fuel to be added, so that's 1 litre minimum across the pit stops, and changing tyres is entirely optional. And there is no defined pit window, so drivers may choose when to pit and take those 2 stops. They could do an extremely long opening stint of 60 minutes and then decide to take their second stop right at the end, just a quick splash and dash. Alternatively, they may decide to pit every 30 minutes in the 90-minute race. Well, we are approximately right now 8.5 minutes away from our driver's briefing, so we take a look to the live pictures here, and what you can see in the meantime is our drivers are making their way on around right now and getting themselves set, as we are looking at Martono as he comes through and gets it a bit wrong there in the run up towards what was their turn number 10. In fact, he jumps back to the pits. I think the majority of our drivers are actually parking it in, as we do see Vesfield, they're losing the rear of the car and just collecting it together, and I think Vesfield just having a little bit of a park up there and deciding to wait as he brings it back to the pits. But meanwhile, as we look from him to other drivers around the field who are out on circuit, we do see Lucas Seedor here taking the Mercedes AMG through turn number 7 and into turn number 8 right now, and as he flows on through and actually heads up to 9, my apologies there for the corner numbers a little bit early on, coming into turn number 9, looking rather smooth at this time as he makes his way on through. And the Volante Racing driver here back after the Christmas break, and we're looking forward to some fantastic racing. I did have the opportunity to catch up with a number of drivers down in the virtual paddock in the build up to tonight, so I'll be bringing you their thoughts, their pre-race thoughts, a little bit later on in the show when we go into qualifying. But everybody absolutely itching and salivating at the prospect going on the full offensive. And as our drivers make their way around right now, all trying to get in that final little bit of practice time. As we see Joshua Allen there, I think parked up somewhere in the pits. We can't actually quite see him. The camera's focused on the wrong area. And we also do see a little bit further around the circuit. In fact, coming across that timing line, Giovanni Izzo here for Cortec Racing 1, making his way across that timing line here. And as he does, looking very good. As I think we've had a slight bit of latency there. I think we've got a driver just connecting to the server, and that can trigger a little bit of latency. But we have got the majority of our drivers who are planning to participate here. And I can see off screen right now a good number of drivers getting ready to head into the driver's briefing room. But as they make their way on around right now, we can see there Izzo parking up. Ivan Fornes here, the Spaniard, and the Joker's E-Team BMW M4. And of course, there has been a little bit of a question mark over the BMW M4 in recent times. What have it been introduced into Assetto Corsa Competition on PC as of November 2021? And this car, when it was first introduced, was considered by many at the top level. And indeed, we do have some very fast drivers in here. But that's not to undermine the drivers that are perhaps not as fast, but still should be taken very, very seriously. But it was the case that a number of people questioned whether the BMW would be fair to bring, given the fact it was very strong. But it's recently been balanced in terms of the balance of performance has been updated and adjusted to make the BMW M4 not the runaway car in the GT3 category. And so we are expecting our BMW M4 drivers to be competitive, but not leading the way every race and every lap. But of course, we'll wait and see, because it may not just be the car, it's also the driver that we do have to consider. It's not just all about the car at the end of the day. Now, I can see plenty of you tuning in right now in the chats, although I can't see anybody actually typing any messages in the chat. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi. Let me know in the chat, whether it's in YouTube, Facebook, or alternatively Twitch. We can see all the chats here. Do let me know how you're doing today and who you are cheering on for this season over, indeed for the whole season. And if there's anything you do want to know whilst we're waiting for the build up here, of course, I'll do my best to give you all the answers to every question you've got, other than I can't predict the future and tell you who is going to win in this opening round, or indeed win the championship I don't have a crystal ball, I'm afraid. If I did, well, that would just be a spoiler for everybody. But right now, we are all waiting to go. And indeed, all of our drivers absolutely celebrating the prospects of going racing, as we do see here. Cody Cosford, the team Bowlers Esport, making his way out of turn number 12 and up into turn number 13. And well, in terms of conditions at the moment, we are expecting some quite variable conditions. In an earlier practice session today, while drivers were allowed to have free reign of the circuit, there was a lot of rain on the circuit, but that seems to have cleared up. And now instead, we're looking at quite a bit of cloudy conditions at the moment. Track temperature only 21 degrees centigrade, 15 degrees ambient at this point in time. But to be fair, at the same time, it is 20 to 1 in the afternoon in the Dutch circuit as simulated. So as a result, we are expecting those temperatures not to rise too much in terms of the ambient. The track temperature will rise as more and more track time is spent by drivers. In the majority of cases here, I think it will be the case. We're looking at quite a moderate temperature today, but the one thing at Zandvoort that I've heard a lot of drivers complain about, their front left tyres seem to be overheating, particularly mid-engine rear-wheel drive drivers, such as the McLaren 720S that Cody Cosford is piloting. It is the case also the rear left tyre seems to be overheating a little bit. As we see there in the Twitch chat, watching at work, 11:20 a.m. from what is the 9 job there, PST, hoping to see some good racing. It's good to see you here, the 9 job, and hope you're not getting in trouble at work. And well, yeah, I think you're on for a treat here, because we do have some veteran drivers such as CHS Motorsports, Chris Zoiger here. Chris Zoiger not being the fastest of drivers once again, but a very tactical driver, and bringing back the Porsche 911 GT3R, and it's great to see him in the number 25 car once again. We do love to see Chris Zoiger, and of course a very familiar face at NXTGEN, in the fact whilst he's not a part of the NXTGEN team per se, he's been in every series that's been hosted on Assetto Corsa Competizione by NXTGEN. And Zoiger, we started off in the European Series 1, and since then his story has been a story of fighting uphill and really showing what he can do. When he hasn't had the pace, he's had the strategy to get himself right up there, and we're expecting some great things from him today as our drivers continue to make their way on round right now. And we do just bring up those lap times for you to give you a relative comparator with regards to how our drivers are doing in this final practice session. And what we can see, the fastest time set has been by Luke Whitehead, the 1:33.957 there, only half a tenth ahead of Daniel Sharapinin, who today for SMP Racing Esports, he will be running in a black livery, and the reason for that is unfortunately they weren't able to get the livery on the car in time for today's race. We expect him in his official livery next week. And do keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in for certain drivers and you do see that their drivers' liveries are not quite on the car, it is the case that we are working to fix those issues, and those should be fixed by round number 2. Of course, it'll be all right on the night, and we do try to get everything in place for the season over. Sometimes things do go wrong, but the most important thing is what's not going to go wrong, fingers crossed we hope, is the race in action. We want that to be absolutely in tip-top form, and well, it's all looking good right now. We are set for a thrilling season opener, and we will look forward to seeing how it all kicks off. Now, in terms of the form we're expecting here, with 3 minutes to go before the driver's briefing, we are expecting it to be a mid-engine rear-wheel drive favoured circuit. Zandvoort is a very tight and twisty circuit. It's a circuit that favours quite high downforce because there's not too many straights. There's a lot of flying sections where you're encouraged to take as much apex speed as possible and carry the momentum from corner to corner. Now, with that in mind, what that will mean is cars such as Daniel Sharapin's Mercedes AMG Evo will struggle here somewhat because they've got the engine and the weight distributed towards the front of the car. And when you've got that, you've got a native amount of understeer, which means attacking corners, you've essentially got to fight against the nature of the cars. We see there, the understeer is a little bit wide out of turn number 11 and brings the car back together. So I think we're going to be seeing quite a bit of a struggle from any car that's front engine rear wheel drive today. The only exceptions that might be the BMW M4s, which are quite good handling cars by comparison to say the likes of the Mercedes, but we will have to wait and see. Remember, overtaking is also quite prevalent here, and on top of that, we do have that conundrum of the weather. Will we see any rain at any point? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. We are now just under 2 minutes away from that driver's briefing, and we will be cutting to that as soon as it does get underway, ladies and gentlemen. I am currently seeing a number of drivers making their way into the pit lane and getting ready for the briefing. And well, whilst we are waiting for that briefing, we can see actually Daniel Sharapinin making his way into the pits. Vesfield here for Intruder Racing Team, making his way through turn number 3 and exiting the corner right now and looking quite smooth as he does so here. And I think he'll be peeling on in into that driver's briefing room in short order as well. And I think the majority of our drivers are in the pits right now and they've left their cars. But I think there are a couple still just looking to make their way around for one final lap, get a cheeky last lap in, see if they can just find a little bit more pace, a little bit more time time out there, and then they will sneak on into the driver's briefing room. And I do believe our driver's briefing is going to be brought to us by Kevin Smith, the organiser of this series of NXTGEN Racing, indeed a long-time organiser at NXTGEN Racing, good friend of mine as well, great guy, and well, he's put a lot of time and effort in it in order to get this set up in collaboration with the SimGrid and coach Dave Academy. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now are just under a minute away from that driver's briefing, so we are just going to very gradually cut our way over into the driver's briefing room. I'm just going to sneak into the Discord channel here. And hopefully, yep, my microphone is muted, so as a result I can keep talking to you guys and girls. Of course, I will go silent when we do get that briefing underway, but I'm not going to make the same mistake that I did in the season opener for the Intercontinental Challenge Championship, which is where I accidentally entered the driver's briefing room unmuted, and I think I deafened a few people in the process, which I do apologise about, and well, that's going to stay with me for some time. But we do cut over to the driver's briefing now that the time is only about 10 to 15 seconds away from us going racing. Now, as we are waiting for this driver's briefing to get underway, I'm just checking to see who will be giving it, and I do think it is going to be Kevin Smith. We're just waiting for him to get into the room, but I think he has given the order for everyone to pile into the driver's briefing room now, so we are just at the mercy of Kevin Smith coming on in. It should be any moment now, ladies and gentlemen. I think most of our drivers are in there now. We've got a couple still making their way on around circuit, but I think everybody has been requested. And, well, I think I can hear Kevin Smith making his way. Yep, there he is. So I will leave you to the docile tones of Kevin Smith very shortly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first season of the World Tour here at NXTGEN Racing. Tonight we are at Zandvoort, and we do expect it to be either sunny or cloudy for the duration of the full race. Rain is highly unlikely today. In regards to tonight's race and the rest of the season, there will be no RTG to be used for qualifying. The only time you can use RTG is if you pull into the pits past the pit limit speed, and then you can use it once you're in that pit lane. Pit stops as well. There's 2 mandatory pit stops. Tyre change is totally up to yourselves, but you must take 1 litre of fuel minimum for that pit stop to register. These can be taken at any time during the race. There's no pit window. It's all down to your own strategy. In regards with pit entry and pit exit, on pit entry, please do try not to cut across from the left-hand side of the track right to go into the pits. Obviously, we don't want this causing any incidents for anyone. And on pit exit, please be aware of drivers coming down the start straight into turn 1. Obviously, because the pit exit comes out onto the turn pretty much straight away, so keep an eye on your relatives and your mirror to see if any cars come behind you as well. Live student is in place. There will be a post-race appeals form put out, which you can appeal any instance that happened during the race if you wish. And in regards to a question we've had in regards to glitches or cheats, as some people like to call them, if we suspect any one of it, we will be requesting telemetry, and we can request anyone's at any time. It'll just be a random spot check if we wish to do it at every round. And I believe that is it, everyone. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the general chat. We'll get these answered straight away. Apart from that, you're free to leave the room. Good luck, and we'll forwards to qualifying in 2 minutes.
So that there was the driver's briefing given by Kevin Smith. Now, you're probably wondering with respect to some of the things that were mentioned there, particularly around the quote-unquote cheating. So this is with respect to an exploit that's currently available in Assetto Corsa Competition around using the negative toe of a car in order to be able to gain lap time, because negative toe on a car changes the behaviour of a car, but unfortunately it doesn't change it as would be expected from a simulator. And as you heard there, Kevin Smith saying that at any point these stewards can request the telemetry data of any driver's car, and well, it is the case they'll be doing random spot checks as well, as it's only fair they audit a random selection of drivers, and if they find anybody has been using the negative toe angle cheat or exploit, if you will, then a driver is going to be subject to very heavy penalties as a result. So as with that in mind, I think everyone will be just keeping themselves very savvy of the fact that we expect some fairness and also some honesty. But I think all of our drivers are going to be quite honest with regards to how they've got their cars set up, as we are just trying to get the camera pointed. But everybody in the pit lane right now, it's fantastic to see everybody down there just waiting to go racing. Although I think Lucas Degano has managed to get himself disqualified from this practice session, and I do hope that's nothing too serious going into the race. I think he might have been driving the wrong way on the circuit where he spun the car or something along those lines. But we have got 33 drivers who will be taken to the Zandvoort circuit today out of our 38 entrants. We've got a practically full grid, and well, we are now only moments away from going racing. And well, we do have one driver here just parked up. We can't quite see them due to the grandstand there, or in fact the pit stand. And as we are waiting to go, I think just a couple of drivers slightly out of their pit boxes, but you can see there from the helicam or the helicopter camera, everybody's set, itching and raring to go racing. And my goodness, we have got a fantastic season ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen. You can count on that as we are looking, and there's been no further questions with regards to the driver's briefing, so everything has been confirmed and sorted. And well, we can see Kevin Gelling there, or Harricone in the Twitch chat, saying listening to the driver's briefing in the Twitch chat because Discord is dead. Well, that's very nice of you to be able to use the broadcast there to listen in, Kevin. And well, good luck to you indeed. Good luck to all of our drivers participating. But qualifying is underway then, ladies and gentlemen. The season openers qualifying session is a go, and let's see how all of our drivers get on here today as they take to the Zandvoort circuit. Now, what are we expecting in this qualifying session? I think we are expecting, in terms of those potential prospects here, it's going to be quite a few laps. We're going to be getting quite a few hot laps in from our drivers here, approximately somewhere in the region of 5 to 6. Remember, they do not have a restriction on the number of tyre compounds they're allowed to use. They're allowed to use as many tyres as they do want in qualifying and the race. We don't put restrictions on because this is not a long-term endurance race. It's relatively short compared to some of the endurance races you may see on Assetto Corsa Competition, say 6 or 12 hours. When it is the case, our drivers will have to give it the all, but also be smart in terms of where they place themselves in the qualifying sessions. We do see Fornes here making his way on front. He does have behind him, that's Luke Whitehead, who doesn't look too happy being queued in behind the BMW M4 driver as he makes his way on around. But whilst he's coming on through here, we can see both drivers stacking over the top of each other. And now, as everybody makes their way down towards what is turns 11 and 12, down towards the Audi chicane, if you will, they all get ready to go qualifying. Of course, Luke Whitehead, the GTWR RHG Academy, the Romain Grosjean Academy driver here. He was our runner-up in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship after an unfortunate start to the season finale, which saw him drop out the race very early on. And now as he gets ready to go, all of our drivers look to make the way onto their opening flying lap of this session. And well, you can see the huge queue building up here in towards what is the final chicane, and then going into the final two corners. Everybody looking to go, and we are just waiting now for our drivers to make their way through. And Martin Van Mooster here, the MVM Designs SAS racing driver here, well, he's going to be coming right up to the back of this queue and looking to go on a qualifying lap, as the Lucas Seedor taking us onto a lap. And indeed, many of our drivers just getting themselves set to go onto their opening flying lap of the session, and that queue really building up here. It's almost like a traffic jam, but indeed everybody just inching along and trying to get themselves raring to go, because how tight the circuit is as they make the way on through. But I think a number of drivers will feel a little bit of frustration with this and also be losing some tyre temperature. But as we see everybody just queuing up at this point in time, we will try and get on board with our drivers, and we can see here, and we ride on board with what is Giovanni Isa as he takes us around for his opening flying laps. Coming through turn 1, the banked right-hander, the opening corner, coming all the way down the gearbox, and now charging up through into turn number 2, the right-hander here. Balancing the car in second gear in the Mercedes AMG before stepping all the way down to first gear into left-hander of turn number 3. Going a bit deep, taking a V-shape there to get past the understeer of the AMG as he now goes charging in flat out here through turns 4 through to 6. Going through the right-hand kink into left-hand kink here, and then coming into the full-up right-hander completely flat out. Positioning the car to left-hand side for braking into turn 7. coming down to third gear here, balancing the car around 105 miles an hour, while getting back on the throttle and now accelerating into turn number 8. The sweeping right hander here coming through, missing the apex curve quite a bit there in fact, and now to bring the car back together. And as he makes his way into turn number 9, the first of 2 sweeping corners here, very tricky corners, almost like hairpins if you will, but not quite sly enough to be considered hairpins, not a complete hairpin shape. As he comes through turn 10, he's having a very difficult start to his qualifying session as he now makes his way out of 10 and up towards 11-12, heading up towards the outer chicane, and as he makes his way towards the heavy braking zone here, coming all the way down the gearbox, and just sliding the car through the apex of turn 11, getting the car stopped at turn number 12 and staying in second gear rather than dropping the first in order to get on the power a little bit more confidently. And now coming into turn number 13, staying in third gear, or second I believe, we found out second, and accelerating out up into third, now coming through the right hander flat out here through fourth gear. Now charging across that line, a nice lap, and we've got a couple of laps already on the board. And what's this going to be from Giovanni Izzo as he crosses the line? Well, it's going to be the slowest lap recorded so far until Dominic Linker behind him in the Audi, but the fastest lap by comparison that's been set to date is Tinko van der Velde here, the Williams eSports driver, as he makes his way flying on down, heading all the way through here. And all the Dutchman currently what is a 1:33.987, and the number 66 driver very happy with that lap, I think, but there's plenty more out there. Luke Whitehead only 1.5 hundredths behind him, and we've also got Sebastian Apostol, who is currently P3 in the BMW M4, but the best part of 4 attempts of the top 2 right now is the West Competition Racing driver, and I think he will need to dig a little bit deeper in order to find some lap time. Now, as he makes his way on around, I did, as I said earlier, had the opportunity to catch up with a number of the drivers in the build-up to tonight, and one driver I had the chance to catch up with, and a bit of a fan favourite, he has been in previous seasons, so we just try to find him around the circuit, is Gareth Mills, the GM4 racing driver here, or Gareth Mills racing driver, as he makes his way out of turn 3. And the South African driver, he was saying to me, in terms of his pre-race thoughts, is that he had some good experience in the 2 seasons of iRacing he competed in at NXTGEN, so that's the NXTGEN GT3 Challenge Championship, and now he's decided to pit himself back against the aliens on Assetto Corsa Competizione to test his grit, ability and endurance against some of the best. And when he talks about the best, he's referring to names such as Tinko van der Velde, Harry Phillips, and also Luke Whitehead, just to name 3 of them. There's plenty more out there, of course, in this group. Also Dal King, for example. However, what he was saying is he needs to be realistic that his pace won't be up there. However, during the race, he will push for consistency and try to be as competitive as possible and make it interesting in the mid-pack. And Gareth Mills, to be fair, a driver who comes from every race learning from his previous experiences. And, of course, in his venerable Porsche 911 GT3R, and indeed a huge team behind the number 4 driver as he makes his way through turn 11 and 12. And you can see there behind just a little bit of spacing being given between 2 drivers. And I think that was one of the Bullers eSports drivers. Indeed, it was the Bullers eSport McLaren, and also a driver who we did have the chance to catch up with, I believe, as we do look a little bit further on round right now. And well, there's Victor Nicolai, the West Competition racing driver, making his way on through. And West Competition, a new team entering into this series, and as he makes his way around in BMW M4s, you'll see them in a variety of colours, very nice colours on the cars. And as we can see him making his way on through, the Romanian driver at this point in time coming charging through turn number 6 and up into 7, and currently P8 provisional with just over half this qualifying session left to go. And Luke Whitehead now holds the provisional pole time of a 33.872. But another driver I had the chance to speak to in the build-up to tonight, albeit he didn't have too much to say, to be fair, but I think he was very focused on getting some more practice time in, was Joshua Allen. Now, where is Joshua Allen out on circuit? I do believe there might be a little bit of a situation with regards to Joshua Allen at the moment. I think he might just be in the pits, so we will try and find him when we can for you, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, as we continue to look around here, it is the case as our drivers continue to press on through. Another driver who I did have the opportunity to speak to was David Breger here, who we can see in the Boatley Boys machine, the number 7 car from Germany here. It is the case that he was saying that since this is going to be his first league where there is something to win, and in terms of a prize on offer, he means he hopes for a good and clean series of racing rounds. He also hopes that the other drivers around him do not drive around with dollars in the eyes. So what he means by that, in terms of that they're so focused on the money that takes away from the clean and respectful racing that we expect to see in NXTGEN Racing. Well, indeed, we'll be making sure from stewarding from a live perspective and also a post-race stewarding perspective that is not going to be the case. And on top of that, he was saying that for himself, he does not have any hope for finishing up front necessarily, a bit of a negative remark, but he clarified that afterwards to say that simply because he feels that drivers such as Luke Whitehead and Tinko van der Velde are on another level, and at the moment he feels as though the Bentley is not quite up there performance-wise, although he was also saying that might just be a little bit of a racing driver excuse. However, since it's his main car and he always drives it, and hence the team name there of the Boatley Boys, in reference to the fact that it does look like a little bit of a naval vessel, particularly when it's in rainy conditions. The Bentley Continental GT3 2018 machine. He's going to try and manage it, and on at least 2 tracks he will try to pull some surprises, but he didn't tell me which tracks in particular, so we'll have to wait and see for that surprise. But for the rest of the tracks, let's see what comes. He's really curious as to where he's going to finish come the end of the season, but I like that. He's setting his expectations realistically, but also hoping to throw some surprises. But to be fair, right now, P13 for a driver who's not expecting to be up there, and only 7.5 tenths off a provisional pole was set by Luke Whitehead. That's not a bad start, albeit I think there might be some more laps out there to be delivered. And going from one driver who's new to the series to another driver who's new to the series, although we have seen the team in the series, we saw them briefly in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship, and that is SAS Racing Team's Martin van Munster from MVM Designs. He is, of course, the manager of MVM Designs, Martin van Munster, and what he was saying to me, the Dutchman, in the build-up to tonight, it's quite an emotional conversation I had with the Aston Martin racing driver, and the reason for that, simply put, is that it was a case that he wanted me to say for him on his behalf, live on air, thank you to his father, who's going to be tuning in tonight. And I do think Mr. Munster Senior will really, Mr. Van Munster Senior, I should say it correctly, will be very appreciative of this, because it was the case that his father helped him out with the entry fee for this competition. Our driver's having to pay quite a significant entry fee of $40, 40 United States dollars, but that's how we got the massive prize pool, and it'd be a nice gesture to him as he'll be watching. Well, indeed, I think I'll say on the behalf of you, Martin, thank you to Mr. Van Munster Senior, and indeed SAS Racing represented here today. Last time we saw them out, of course, was Mike Crew in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship at the end of 2021, but at this time it is the Dutchman of Martin van Munster who is representing them here today, and I think it'll be interesting to see how he performs. I think he's expecting to perform right in the mid-pack there, albeit this qualifying session has not gone too well so far, but plenty more time out there. As we see Ivan Fornes here, making his way up into turn number 7 right now. I didn't have the chance to catch up with the Joker's E-Team BMW driver, although I must say one of the most distinctive liveries on the grid. And well, when I tried to catch him, he was getting in and out of the car, doing quite a lot of work in terms of the setup of the car and speaking with the engineers. Something is the case. The Joker's E-Team BMW driver just got his head down and looking to get on with the job. But another driver I did have the chance to catch up with and have a good conversation with was Lucas Seedor. Now, Lucas Seedor, currently provisional at P16, the Volante Racing driver from Poland in the number 199 car. And he was saying that he only joined at Volante Racing quite recently. He feels motivated and stressed out at the same time because he wants to show up at Zandvoort in the season opener, even though it's not his best track, and it's also his 3rd season with NXTGEN. He is a regular with us, and we're very happy to see Seedor returning. And the last 2 were not too successful, but he's pretty excited for this season. And Seedor really was unfortunate in a number of the races in the last 2 series, particularly the Intercontinental Challenge Championship, where he put in some stellar performances, but they always seem to be undermined by some poor luck at the worst possible time. Well, hopefully his luck will be on his side today as he makes his way on around. Now, we also say hello to Boris there in the YouTube chat, who is cheering on Lucas Seedor. Indeed, I think it is the case that we're cheering on the Volante Racing driver tonight and for the rest of the series, which is absolutely great to see. And I can see over 40 of you tuning in right now across the different media platforms, which is absolutely fantastic to see, ladies and gentlemen. Do keep it up, and well, it is great to see so many of you turning out tonight. And I do believe, whilst our drivers are making their way on around right now, we have had a couple of drivers who've had some slight technical issues, and well, Joshua Allen, we have managed to find him now, the Pulse SimSport driver, as he makes his way up into turn number 10 in a special livery dedicated to this series. And the Briton, I had the chance to briefly catch up with him, and in terms of what he had to say, where it was the case, he was saying that Zandvoort is an awesome track and he has a good car and set up for the dry, but if it rains, he's a goner, and he's worried about that rain. We've got absolutely lovely sunshine right now, and I think Joshua Allen here will be looking to get in some good laps. He's currently P22, not quite in the midfield right now, a little bit outside the middle of the pack, but indeed plenty of time as we see the McLaren 720S driver make his way around. The McLaren, a bit of an odd car here at Zandvoort. On paper, it should be good because of the fact it's mid-engine rear-wheel drive, but the problem with this car, it's very sensitive to curbs, and Zandvoort has a lot of raised curbs, as we do ride on board here with Joshua Allen as he takes us around for what is going to be one of his last flying laps as he comes across that timing line. Since he's accelerating up through the gearbox here, heading into 6th gear and charging in towards turn number 1. Braking hard here, coming into turn number 1, and you can hear coming all the way down the gearbox, coming down the 2nd gear, and now powering out of the corner, using the preload differential of the car to push out, and now as he comes into turn number 2, rolling the car back down to 2nd gear here from 3rd gear, and now into turn number 3. We hear a full up downshift there, and as he goes through the left-hand, the banked left-hander, accelerating out in 2nd gear there, and as he now makes his way on the long run up towards turn number 7, flat out through here, and we'll see he's got the distant toe of the car in front of him. That will help him a little bit on the straight, and as he makes his way up into turn 7, he'll want to flick the car in. as he comes down one gear and throws the car into the corner there. Absolutely chucks it. It looks very stable. I can tell you he has the frame in the steering wheel. And now coming into turn number 8, smoothly on through and using the full width of the road surface before coming up to turn number 9. Now looking to widen the entry there so he can get on the power as soon as possible beyond apex. Now doing the same into turn number 10 as he brakes on into the left-hander, and as he makes way through, just getting the left-hand wheels on the apex curve there and using that power on exit to extend the width of the corner, and now charging down towards turns 11 and 12 into the Audi chicane, and he'll be braking all the way down the gearbox here. Rolling the car all the way through, sliding a little bit there on that last downshift into first gear, and as he powers out now up into second and goes charging up into third gear, we're looking to come down to second again. In fact, stays in third there for turn number 13. Feeling he gets the better run out the corner. He runs a little bit wide, keeps 2 wheels on circuit, so I think it will still be a valid lap, but it's not a perfect lap from Joshua Allen, but he is pushing hard right now. Currently provisional P18. He did improve on that previous lap, and what about on this lap as he comes across the timing line? And it's not quite an improvement. It was a 35.0 versus 34.7. So as we look back up the order, right now it is Luke Whitehead, who is currently provisional pole on a 33.682, and well, he is only half a tenth ahead of Tinko van der Velde in the Mercedes AMG. Absolutely brilliant to get that out of the Mercedes AMG, and Danilo Sharapinin currently P3 in the black liveried S&P Racing Esports Mercedes as well, as he comes roaring on down through turn number 7, and as he rolls the car through the right-hander and exits, well, it is looking quite good for Sharapinin, but he has to keep in mind that Harry Phillips here, and a driver who we haven't really talked about. Now, for those who are veterans of watching series hosted by NXTGEN Racing, and indeed a number of other series, you'll normally think of Harry Phillips of Wild Things Racing and think, well, where there's Harry Phillips, there's a Bentley. He's in a Porsche this time, and well, it is showing right now. The switcher car for the 2021 BOP, well, he's only half a second off of provisional pole, but indeed right up there, P4. And I would argue second best to the rest after Danilo Sharapinin right now was Zabolov, who is only the best part of 300ths off in P5. And well, Oleg Zabolov here in the S&P Racing Esports Ferrari, which unfortunately we couldn't get the livery in place in time, but we will get that fixed for next time out for you, ladies and gentlemen. It is the case, looking good for the Russian driver right now, P5, and in the Ferrari 488. And the Ferrari's quite good here. The optimum car, we do believe, as the qualifying time it does come down, is the Porsche, but the Ferrari's right up there as our drivers continue to make their way round. And well, now it's all about putting in those final laps with both drivers peeling into the pits here. They're not carrying on through, and I think the majority of drivers deciding to come on in, and with that in mind, that might be everything said and done, as we are just waiting to see if anybody else is able to improve. Luca Dogano there, the Cortec Racing one driver from Italy, making his way on around the circuit, and well, can he improve from P6? But to be fair, the Mercedes driver's putting in a very, very good qualifying performance so far, and well, a little bit back in the trend. We thought the Mercedes may struggle a little bit compared to the likes of the Porsche and the Ferrari, but the Mercedes right up there, and as we can see, as he makes his way through turns 11 and 12, he does have a little bit of traffic ahead of him, but I don't think that's going to annoy him too much as he comes on through it. That is SAS Racing's Aston Martins. There was a car parked up there to return to the pits, and I think that car will be disqualified from qualifying as our drivers continue to make their way around. I haven't seen anything come through in qualifying so far, but as these laps are coming through, we see Luca Dogano. Does he come in? No, he decides, no, he doesn't come across line, he decides to come into the pits instead. What about elsewhere? We see Vesfield here, the Intruder Racing Team driver, the Swiss, who of course a very fast driver, and one of those drivers who loves to pull off some very interesting strategies. He has a habit of doing the opposite from everyone else and really throwing a bit of a random strategy into the mix to mix things up. Well, he's currently P9, and a very strong start to the season for Vesfield. He was competing for the top 10 regularly in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship. As he comes across the line, well, he's not going to come across the line, he pulls into the pits. I think that is qualifying done, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Luke Whitehead, who has taken a pole position. We will be right back very shortly for the build up to the race. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then and we are set to go racing. The grid has been formed, and I can see that Krolowski Artem in the YouTube chat saying Denisenko is starting from the back for the win. Well, Denisenko will be starting right from the back, and we can see him parked up there. Pavlo Denisenko from the Team Bowlers Esport team from Ukraine in the number 141 car. But we look to the front first and foremost, and it is, at the end of the day, Luke Whitehead, who took pole position by the smallest of margins in the end of what was only only a couple of hundredths versus Tinko van der Velde, who took P2. And of course, these two will be no strangers to a rivalry between one another, as they have 4 minutes to get the cars set up, given the fact that these two were competing for the championship win last time out in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship, and two very promising stars in the world of Assetto Corsa Competition esports from what I'm gathering. Don't share opinion, however, really the best of the rest. P3, 3.5 attempts for Tinko van der Velde in the end, with Harry Phillips alongside in P4. We then have P5, Oleg Zabolov in the Ferrari with Luca Dogano alongside P6. Then we have Prezi Martono in P7 alongside Rafael Dinardo in P8, Vensfield P9, and Sebastian Apostol P10. That's our top 10, and it is the case that that is our first BMW M4 from West Competition Racing. And just behind him on row number 6, we do have Victor Nicolai there in P11 and David Brege in P12. Then behind them we have Mattia Vacca P13 with Lucas Seedor P14. Then we do have Amadeo Castorino in P15 with Dragos Simone in P16. And as we continue to look down the order, and I do believe, unfortunately, we can't get a closer camera angle for you, ladies and gentlemen, it is the case that P17, Kevin Gillen for Intruder Racing Team, and alongside the Frenchman is Andrea Frassini in P18, and behind them Joshua Allen and what is Timmy Letonen in P20. That's our top 10 rows, and we can see there the Finnish driver in the Audi R8. Now, I will be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit biased towards the Audis. The Audi R8 LMS Evo been one of my favourite GT3 cars. Haven't seen them race around Brands Hatch in person. Fantastic cars, but still everybody equal. Now we can see Ivan Fornes P21 as we look to the helicam here to continue down our order, and alongside him is Giovanni Izzo P22. They make up what is our 11th row. Christian Nembrini P23 with Marcus Fox P24, and then we do have Joe Coffin P25 with Chris Zoiga having a very difficult qualifying session, the Porsche driver. Indeed, a number of Porsches losing out there and being quite far down the order. Chris Zoiga P26 with Vittorio Simone in P27, the Italian driver for Renegade SRW in the BMW M4, and alongside him is Dominic Linke in P28, the second of our two Audis in this series, and then it is Cody Cosworth P29 with Tobias Linden P30. Those guys making up our 15th row, the Swede there making up P30. Gareth Mills P31, Martin Van Mooster P32, and then last but not least, Pavlo Denishenko taking P33, having been disqualified from qualifying and starting from the back. And well, it will be the case that as our drivers look to go racing, just seeing there in the chat from a number of you guys looking into the YouTube chat in particular, I can see Giorgio Cornicia saying, great pole to Luke Whitehead, go GTWR. So cheering on Whitehead, who starts on pole, 1.5 minutes to go. And I think really for Whitehead right now, as we just sit on board and look at him, he'll be thinking about he wants to make up for what was a disastrous end to the Intercontinental Challenge Championship in Next Gen. He was the guy who was meant to take the championship win, but it was a huge smash at the top of Radion in what was the final round at Spa-Francorchamps, which saw him end up in the pits for an extended period of time. He got the car back together, but it wasn't enough, and instead the championship went to this man here by a surprise, you could say, for the Dutchman. From Williams Esports is Tinko van der Velde, and it will be the case that now in the Mercedes, will he be able to continue from where he left off as our championship winner? Will he come out at the end of this round our championship leader? We'll have to wait and find out. I can also see there in the YouTube chat Zirai Grunin saying that there's technical problems with the computer for, I believe, somebody there. I can also say Victor Bulik in the YouTube chat saying, are there separate stream for Denishenko? Unfortunately, not to my knowledge. If he is doing one, that will have to be being communicated by him. I'm not aware to it, but right now with only half a minute to go before we get the manual double file warm-up lap or the formation lap underway, we can see all of our field there raring to go as everybody now coming down off the jacks. You can imagine the tyres will be at their highest possible temperature they can as they come out of the blankets. Temperature-wise and condition-wise, it is 5 minutes past 3. It will very shortly be 5 minutes past 3 in the Dutch region of Zandvoort, and it is the case. And this circuit track temperature 21 degrees centigrade, and well, it will be 15 degrees ambient as Luke Whitehead takes us away as that timer ticks down. And now all of our drivers will be trying to get themselves nice and warm in terms of the tyres and also the brakes as the manual double file rolling start procedure gets underway, and all of our drivers will pull off the line one by one here. They'll go around initially in what is a line formation, but as we get closer and closer towards the end lap, particularly the final third, they will start to form up into double file, and then it will be to this man to take us away for the season opener. But as everybody pulls away right now, of course, tyre temperature is going to be absolutely critical. And we can also see a Max Khoroshevin there saying, go Pablo, go. And we can also see a Leo Anderson there saying, go on Joshua Allen. We can see Joshua Allen here, the McLaren driver, and as he makes his way off the line here, the Pulse Sim Sport driver, the Briton, will be looking to try and make his way a bit further up the order as time goes on. In terms of any surprises or where drivers seem to have just shocked us at the start of the season, really not too much to bank on at the moment. I think we have seen some familiar names perform where we'd expect them to, as more and more of you are tuning in right now. But again, do place your predictions in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, who you're cheering on, how you're expecting the race to go. In terms of the current weather that's on the way within the next 30 minutes, not too highly variable weather at the moment, I must say. We've got quite a bit of an overcast theme going on. Within the next 30 minutes, we're expecting the clouds to stay with us. A lot of rubber down the circuit, so we have got an optimal track condition at the moment. Of course, our drivers, race engineers will be feeding that information as well from the weather radar. But as we look further down the order, we've got Cody Cosworth here in P29. And well, what can he do, the Briton, from P29 in the McLaren 720? It should be a case that he could potentially gain some places as time goes on over the course of the 90 minutes. The Team Bullers Esport driver, and he will know that qualifying did not go his way, and he's got a lot of work to make up for it. But as he just tries to get some temperature in now, some lateral temperature as they make their way up into turn 7, you can see closing up behind the Audi in front. Getting very close to that Audi as they all come through the corners, but it is a situation right now, everyone trying to get that tyre temperature, get some brake temperature in as well, and that will help them go races. We look more towards the front, Presley Martono here, the JMX Phantom driver from Poland, well, having a very good qualifying session, and in the very distinctive orange Mercedes. I wonder if he's running that orange colour because we are in the Netherlands, and of course the Dutch colour, the Orange Army, if you will, or the orange colour associated with Dutch fans in Formula 1 for Max Verstappen. Of course, it may be the case, a little bit of a tribute to our Dutch host today, but as he makes his way down and around right now, we're not too far away from getting underway, and we can see as all of our drivers make their way into the Audi chicane, it will now be the case that everybody starts to bunch up, and it will be to Luke Whitehead to start building the formation as they make their way through the final 2 corners. And you can see everybody now in the scramble as we do look to the helicam, and everyone will be trying to get into that formation rather quickly now, as I haven't got long to go before we bring the green flag to bear, and it's time to go racing. As you see the rest of our field really now starting to stack up and come charging on through the final chicanes, but as they do, we do look up towards the leaders, and it'll be to Luke Whitehead to take us away from pole position. And it's a lights out, and away we go for the season opener of the World Tour Season 1 as all of our drivers get underway down to turn number 1. A mad scramble into the corner, and as we look to the helicam here, we can see immediately everybody side by side coming down into turn number 1 here, and of course everyone having to be a little bit furtive with regards to being on the offensive for the simple reason most of our drivers not used to racing amongst one another, but it does look as though everybody's made it through the opening corner. Okay, although we've got a car off there, and that does look to be, well, we've got multiple cars off. There's been a big collision up at turn number 2, and we have lost a good number of drivers who've dropped down the order, but a good number have made their way on through, and with that incident, we can see it's the case that as they come roaring on through the long sequence up into turn number 7, I do know, for example, that we have had what was our Polish driver in the Mercedes only moments ago get it a bit wrong coming out of turn number 2, but we'll try and look back and understand what exactly has happened. But I think that was Presley Martono who's had the incident, but as they all come through right now and up towards turns at 9 and 10, we can see immediately Vesfield here trying to go on the offensive versus Dagano just ahead, but not able to find a way on through as they come roaring on through up into turn number 10. But a little bit further back we can see we do have the side-by-side here of David Brigget and Victor Nicolai as they come out of the corner, and it's the Bentley driver who's got ahead as they make their way down towards turn number 11. They all now start to move into line formation as they make their way down into the braking zone for turn number 11, and Nicolai goes a little bit deep on the brakes there, and that's just lift off before locking up, and as they make their way out at 12, well, my goodness, it has been a bit of an adventurous start for everybody, but there have been some incidents involved. As we see Nicolai making his way on around right now, we look up to the top of the field as we can see that after one lap it is Luke Whitehead leading by only approximately about a tenth of a second. About 2 tenths of a second ahead to Tinker van der Velde as they come across line. Tinker van der Velde in P2, followed by Daniel Chopin in P3. There's Oleg Zabolov P4, but Harry Phillips under pressure here from what is Lucas Degano as they make the way into turn 1. Degano not able to find a way on through. He stays in P6. Look at what is Vesfield in P7, followed by Rafael Donato in P8. Then it is Apostle in P9, followed by David Breguet in P10. Then we've got Victor Nicolai P11, Mattia Baca P12, then Lucas Seedor P13, Castorino P14, and then Kevin Gillen completing our top 15 as there's then a little bit of a break to P16 man Andrea Ficini, who's trying to hold off Joshua Allen at this point in time. But Allen gained a couple of places, but the drivers who've lost out the most, in fact, we've got a number of drivers into the pits due to that incident at turn 2. We have Jago Simone, and we also have Ivan Fornes, Vittorio Simone, and we've also got Christian Nembrini, Giovanni Izzo, and Presley Martono, all involved in that major incident at turn 2, and all having to go into the garage to do some repair work on the car as they make the way on around once again. And was they're taking their pit stop, they may try and use that to get rid of one of their mandatory stops, although I wonder how far that's going to take them in terms of the fact that will they be able to put any fuel in the car. I doubt it. They may just simply have to come into the pits and then just try and extend this race over a single stop effectively. But as the drivers make the way on around right now, it does look as though the field getting into a bit of a natural rhythm as we see Gellin here trying to give pursuit of what is Castorino as they come up into turn 10 once again. Now, as they roll on through at this point, given the fact that there are a number of overtaking opportunities, but at the same time, you don't want to push too hard at the start of this race, given the length of the race and also the fact that tyre temperature is a big story here. It is one of those situations where I think a lot of our drivers will now be driving a little bit conservatively in order to balance things out. As we do see here, Degano, who is chasing after what is Nardo as they make the way on across the line. In fact, no, it's the case that Degano has fallen backwards a bit, and that is Apostle ahead, as meanwhile behind we see Brega looking for the move. He's not quite there. He just goes for an intimidation of a move, and he's not able to find it. And the Bentley driver here from the Boatley Boys team trying to get on through, as we do see a little bit of dust kick up there from Degano up ahead in the Cortec racing machine. And as they make the way through turn 2 and up into 3 this time, you can see Brega really now starting to get on the offensive as they make the way through the left-hander of 3. And we ride on board with our driver who is in P10 as he gives that pursuit after what is Degano as they make the way all the way up and through and into turn 7. Now, at this situation, of course, for the Bentley driver, he's going to fill with the low band torque that the Bentley does have in the low RPM. He doesn't have to worry about one of the key weaknesses of the Bentley, which is its straight line speed, or its top end speed, we should really say. He can close up to Mercedes in front of him, particularly through the corners here, where he will have the better deployment of power. But behind, you can see in this rear view mirror there, we've got the Mercedes of Nicolai inching ever closer as they make the way up into turn 10. The M4 driver of Nicolai looking very, very aggressive right now, as we see just a little bit of fighting with the steering wheel there from Brigge as he makes his way up towards turn 11 now, as he comes into the braking zone here, where he has dropped the BMW driver somewhat as they all make the way on through. And we look back to the exterior cameras, but as he comes through the apex, you can just see how closely matched these drivers are. As a bit further down the road, I can tell you that after what was a rather dramatic start, well, Gareth Mills has already gained multiple places. He's up into P23 and is soldiering on here behind Marcus Fox. And well, speaking of Marcus Fox, well, here he is right now, the Austrian driver, the Fox Sim Racing driver, back in the venerable colours. And as he makes his way down to turn 13, it is the case the Audi driver of Linker in front of him, looking very good so far in terms of trying to get into that top 20 with what is Cosford, just ahead Cody Cosford, as they make their way through turn 14. We've got a drive-through penalty for Matono. Now, I am going to check in with our stewards here with regards to why that is and why there is a bit of a penalty. I think it might be a drive. Well, I'm not 100% sure why a drive-through has been awarded, but forget that for now, as we do see that Linker try and look for the move there versus Cosford, but he's not able to find it. Instead, has to wait for another opportunity as they make the way on around. But as they come charging on through in the meantime, it is a situation that our stewards are already hard at work. I can definitely tell you, looking at what happened on that opening lap, as our drivers carry on through here and make their way up towards turn 7 once again on lap 4. But we look from our drivers a little bit further down the order to up front, and we can see that right now Luke Whitehead, where he has got Tinko van der Velde continuing that pursuit, and Will van der Velde not giving up at any point here, just simply staying right there with him and setting the fastest lap of the race so far, albeit it's early days in terms of the overall pace. But what I can tell you, these two are breaking away from the field already, with Daniel Sherapin in P3 having already made the break from Harry Phillips, and he is really the driver who's then the head of the rest of the chasing pack right now, our top 3 disappearing off into the distance. And when we look back from Harry Phillips here, the Wild Things Racing driver, Now, one thing we do know about Harry Phillips in particular, if you have to put him down as somebody in terms of what is he a master at, he is a master at tyre preservation. He has done on a number of cases. Remember, our drivers do not have to change tyres. They only have to take 1 litre of fuel across the 2 pit stops. Changing tyres is optional. We do know that Harry Phillips is a tyre-saving master, and you can imagine perhaps he may even dare to try and do the whole race on a single set of tyres. Of course, it's 90 minutes, so it is possible on the DHE compound as he makes his way through turn number 1, but we will have to wait and see as he exits the corner and heads up towards turn number 2. But he has got Zavolov right now, the S&P Racing Esports driver who's staying right there with him, and then they've got the Porsche behind them of Vesville. Now, Vesville, by comparison here, I think if he feels as though he can go for a move, he will look for it, because we know that Vesville will run to a very particular style of strategy, and if he needs to get past the driver in order to be able to gain that lap time, he will go for that move. But we'll wait and see as they all start making their way across the timeline there and up into turn number 7. Right now, looking as though Vesfield here, P6, continuing that pursuit. And Rafael Donado here, staying a little bit further back, although not too far back here as the Mercedes driver. And he's got Sebastian Apostel, who did find his way past Luca Dogano. I think Dogano had an off, and that's why the two traded places. But you can see Apostel really at the back of the top pack here, and he is starting to drop Dogano very slightly. Dogano going a little bit deep there at turn number 9. And as he comes into 10 here, I think the triple free driver just having a bit of difficulty in trying to get the nose of that AMG pointed through the corners right now. And it might be the case he's battling against the wheel of the car as he makes his way up into turn number 11. Now, the Cortec Racing driver, of course, and the Cortec team will have worked very hard on the setup of the car. Indeed, everybody will, but we know they're very precise with their setups. So I think Dogano may just be a little bit shaken by the start of this race, and he's now settling himself down into a bit of rhythm as he makes his way into turn number 13. Now, as he comes on through the right-hander of 13 up into 14 at this point, you can see behind here Victor Nicolai and the BMW M4 inching ever closer to Breger in P10 as he's in P11 right now, and he's peeling into the pit. So Nicolai going early for his opening stop here, and I think that is essentially to try and get an undercut. I think he feels as though he's losing time in traffic as we see Lucas Seedor here under a lot of pressure from Amedeo Costarino as they make their way through turn number 1. We ride on board here with the BMW M4 driver as he continues, I should say, this relentless pursuit. The Q-Lash Sim Racing driver as he makes his way through turn 2 and into 3, and you can just see under braking how close he's getting to the back of the Volante Racing driver here. But as they make their way out of the corner, this is where the BMW struggles. He's flashing his lights to try and act as a little bit of a distraction, trying to get into the head of Lucas Seedor, but Lucas Seedor very hard to intimidate as they make their way through 6 and up into 7. But you can see Castorino just under braking every time, able to close up. It's as soon as they get into the long acceleration zones, that's where the Mercedes has the power by comparison. But I think the BMW driver is going to try and look to send it soon, because he does look the more menacing of the two of them as they make their way through turn 9 and up into 10. Now, where can Castorino go for it potentially? We won't want to go for it into 11 for the simple reason if he doesn't get it right, as we see there, Seedor just going a little bit deep, and Castorino actually having to park the car because of the way Seedor had to get the car stopped on Apex. But as they make their way down towards 11, I think Castorino will look for the move into 1, alternatively in the long run through and in towards 7. That's going to be very daring, and then so. But he's got to try and get it done into 1, I think, because right now he's got the pace to break away, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it anywhere else because of the fact that Mercedes is just so strong on the straights as they make the way out of 13 up towards 14. It's going to be an interesting dynamic between these two, because I wonder if Castorino's going to peel into the pit if he feels as though his race is being compromised as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 once again. But they go charge on down at this point, and as they come across that timeline, 10 minutes of the race completed, and it is the case our driver's going on to lap number 7, and well, we have seen some opening incidents, but beyond that, not too much so far. I think this race is very heavily focused around the strategic aspect, and well, speaking of strategy, well, we'll have to see how Tobias Linden's strategy works out right. He's gained a lot of place at the start of this race as he comes out of turn number 14, and the SLS Racing driver chasing after Gareth Mills as they make the way down towards turn number 1 once again. A bit spaced out here, and there is Victor Nicolai. To give you an idea, he only pitted moments ago, and now he's down in P24 with a little bit of clear air. But behind him, we can see Latonen here, Timmy Latonen in the Audi going for the move here versus Martin Van Munster up the inside. A classic move into turn number 1, and I think the number 525 driver has got the move done, and now he's going to be going after Drager Simone as they make the way through 2 and up into 3 here. But the Audi driver getting the move done early, and now coming on through, and well, it is the case, he's already made a pit stop as has Simone. And these drivers, of course, affected by that incident at turn number 2, which we couldn't quite bring you the replay of, unfortunately, due to technical limitations, but a number of drivers were affected by it. But everybody pressing on right now. We have had one retirement in the form of Prezi Martono so far. I think it's the case the damage he picked up at the start of the race has disrupted and damaged the car too much for them to get it repaired, but the racing continues all the same as Latonen here gives that pursuit of Simone. Now, as they make their way all the way on around, it is the case we look back up towards our leaders, and we can see here Luke Whitehead continue to lead I do wonder whether Tinko van der Velde here is just staying with him and fuel saving behind him. Now, in terms of fuel saving, we know that the Mercedes is quite aggressive on its fuel consumption. Not the easiest car to fuel saving because it does use a lot of fuel, but with van der Velde tucked in behind Whitehead right now, you can imagine what he might be looking to do is just on the straight, short shift the car a little bit and let the Porsche pull him along. Well, he's already got the torque versus the Porsche being a bit slow on the straights by comparison, assuming they're running similar amounts of downforce. But as they make the way all the way through now and head up towards turn number 7, you can see between them and Daniel Sherapin, we do have one of the Quartet machines, and I believe that's Giovanni Izzo, the last star drives out on circuit, who is being blue flagged at the moment, as we see the S&P Racing Esports drive just a little bit further behind in P3, but he is gapping, it should be said, he is gapping Harry Phillips here, who in P4 soldiering on right now, and he has started to drop Oleg Sobolov slightly as Harry Phillips. The gap has opened up to a second as they make the way on around right now, but again, it is that big question, of course, with regards to who's pushing and who is playing the more sturdy strategy as they make the way on through it. And now that we are almost 15 minutes into the 1.5 hours, this is where we start to see the tempo of the race calm down a little bit here with regards to drivers start to focus on strategy, and they start to only need to pick off moves if they feel as though their strategy is being compromised. So it may go a little bit quiet at this point, but you can see the long train of drivers here in that hunt for P4 after Harry Phillips, and none less so than Rafael Dinardo here, the Quartet Racing driver from Italy, who is in that pursuit of Vedsfield ahead of him, but behind him he's got Sebastian Apostel, who would love for an opportunity, who goes a little bit wide there coming out of 13. It won't have cost him too much time, but he'll know the West Competition Racing driver that he doesn't want to do that again, because if he keeps doing that, one day he's going to go too far and the car will understeer off into the gravel, as we can see behind Luca Dogano looking for a potential move briefly, but Apostel closes him off, but Bregan behind gets a bit close here, and the Bentley driver looking very, very strong as he makes his way through turn number 1 and up in towards 2 and 3. Now, as they come running on through at this point, the big question, of course, for the Boatley boys driver is, as you can see, that degree of frustration for Dogano here. He's getting so close to the back of the BMW and he can't find a way on through, and now he's got more pressure building behind him. One of them's got to give way soon. Now, is it Dogano who decides, you know what, I actually need to pit, I can't afford to have my race held up here anymore, or is it the case that the German driver behind him takes away that as he understeers a little bit wide, does the Bentley in the form of David Berger as they make the way up into turn number 8. But that's the horrible thing for Dogano here. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. He can't find a way past the BMW that's the rock in front of him at Sebastian Apostel, but he's got the hard place behind him of Bentley that wants that P9 off of him very soon as they make the way through turn number 10 once again. Now, as they come through, looking to our weather radar, still clouds for the next 30 minutes, so it is the case the weather's not shifting too much at the moment. We've got a little bit of a wind picking up, as you can see a flash of lights there from the P10 driver, and I think just trying to get in the head of the Mercedes behind him as they make the way through the chicane. And as they come through turn number 12, you can see a little bit further back Lucas Sidor, who has been dropped to a degree by the top 10. He's 4 seconds behind him right now, but Castorino staying with him for the time being as they make the way out of the corner. And as they come up towards turn number 13, it is the case these drivers all staying very firm and in formation at this point in time and continue to soldier on all the same as they make the way around and on to lap number 10. But as we can see there, the gap starting to build between the top portion of the field and in the mid-pack, if you will. And everyone's starting to break out into smaller groups, and well, that can always lead to a number of opportunities, particularly with regards to the strategies. As we do see, I think it is the case that Victor Nicolai has just dropped behind, or it's Gareth Mills quite a bit there. In fact, no, he has found, well, my apologies, he has found a way past Gareth Mills. I should correct myself there, and it's the case the two of them have traded places here with Nicolai finding his way through. Remember, he has already made one pit stop. It was a scheduled stop only 2 laps ago, so he is on the offensive here and pressing up the road. And as he makes his way down towards turn number 1, a little bit further back there, we see Chris Zoiger also coming on through. Zoiger has yet to make a pit stop, however, that should be pointed out, and so it may be the case here that he's making some early ground now, but he may lose that ground when the pit stops come. But a little bit further back, we can see Dragos Simon here as he makes his way through turn number 2. It is the case for Romanian driver from West Competition Racing. Feeling a little bit of pressure from the former Lettonen, who, given that pursuit in the Audi R8, and the Audi driver not looking too happy right now, being that far down the order. I think wanting to get himself a little bit further up the pack. Meanwhile, a bit further down the order from these guys, we do have Martin Van Munster there, making his way through turn number 2 and up into 3. Currently 2 seconds off of Ivan Fornes. And, well, where is Ivan Fornes, I hear you ask? Well, he is P28, and here he is making his way through turns 4 through to 6 right now. And his race has not started off as he would have wanted. You can see the bumps and scrapes on the front bumper there, or the BMW M4. But as we look from them to much further up the order, I can definitely tell you that as things continue here, the gaps are starting to open up a little bit more, and it's really Vesfield at this point in P6 who has got a bit of pressure in the form of Donato behind him as they make the way through turn number 1. Now as they come roaring on through the right-hander of 1 and up in towards 2-3, behind them, well, you can see Apostle here under increasing pressure as we ride on board with the BMW driver. And again, Dogano, you can see that body language of the Mercedes. It's that growing sense of, I know I'm faster than this, I've got to find a way on through. But as soon as they come out of turn number 3, you see the Mercedes falls back initially on corner exits. It just can't quite shift off that understeer that it gets on exit compared to the BMW. And now as they make the way through 6 and up into 7, this is where the BMW really comes alive in terms of these medium speed sweepers. It is the case that Apostle just is able to extract the time out of the car. Dogano, to be fair, staying with him, but he's nowhere near close enough to try and force a move. We are lunge into turn number 9 here, or trying to do the same into turn number 10, and that's why it's a story of two halves between these drivers as they make the way into turn number 10 now. Apostle doing everything he needs for the time being to hold on quite firmly as they exit the corner and now head towards turns 11 and 12. Now as they make the way on through, we look back to the exterior cameras in the meantime, and it is one of the situations where Dogano just continuing that pursuit, and behind David Wegge staying close as well as they make the way on through turns 11 and 12, but much like before. A bit further down the order, however, Marcus Fox looking for the move here on the inside of a car that seems to disappear, and that is Linker. No, that is Coffin, my apologies, that is Joe Coffin, and Coffin losing the place there, and Marcus Fox making it look like a simple move out the inside. I think Joe Coffin just tucking in behind him, these two not wanting to fight too much, but Sidney Coffin in this instance, I think the long-lived the DFGT driver as he makes his way through turn number 12, just keeping the car nicely tucked together as he exits on out and heads up towards turn number 13, pressing on all the same as he gives a pursuit, and well, as he comes through turn number 13 into 14, starting to fall off of Marcus Fox already a little bit as they make the way on to another lap. Again, it could be a bit of a strategic call here, and perhaps Joe Coffin feels as though he'll be going longer by comparison as they make the way down towards turn number 1. Now, as they roll on down, in the meantime, we do look a little bit further down the order, and we can see Timmy Latonen here in P24, continuing that pursuit of Simeon as they make the way across that timing line. We're almost at the point of 20 minutes clear in this race, and we still will have 70 to go after that, and you can see the Audi driver definitely inching closer on the straight here versus the BMW, but it is the case the two of them seem rather equal through the corners, particularly once they've gone beyond turn number 7, and well, I think Latonen at this point just pressing on all the same. Remember, he has already cleared a pit stop, as has Simeon, because they were both involved in that incident on lap number 1. I am just checking in with the stewards once again as to what's happening, and well, we do see a drive-through penalty has been awarded to what is car number 13, I do believe. Car number 13 has received a drive-through penalty. Now, who is that for reference, you'll be asking, ladies and gentlemen? I'm just trying to consult my notes, and that is for Rafael Donato. So it is the case the Cortec Racing driver has been given a drive-through penalty for hitting the rear of car 32 under braking into turn number 3, and car number 32 was Presley Martono. So Martono, who's retired, and Donato a drive-through penalty. The stewards feel that that opening lap incident was triggered by Donato, and he will be coming in to the pits for a drive-through penalty within the next couple of laps, as we see behind Dogano under pressure once again here from Brega as they make their way through turn number 1, and I think it is the case now. The Bentley driver, the gloves are going to come off with Apostle falling backwards on these two as they make the way. In fact, I think Apostle has made a mistake because he has been dropped quite significantly by the pair of them. We didn't quite catch that on camera, but Apostle has made mistakes. He's dropped 2 places, and now as these guys make the way in the long run up towards turn number 7, in terms of, we've also got a drive-through penalty for car number 103, and well, who is that, I hear you ask? Well, car number 103 is Christian Nembrini. So Cortec Racing having a very, very bad start to their season with what is drive-through penalties for 2 drivers. And well, that drive-through penalty for what is Christian Nembrini, as we do look to him here, is for diving into the inside of car number 25 when an incident is ahead and can be seen resulting in car 25 being spanned. And car 25 was Chris Zoiger. So these are all the drivers who were involved in that incident on the opening lap at turns 2 through to 3. And well, now the effects are being felt. We also do have a drive-through that was awarded to car 32 for that unsafe rejoin at turn number 2. And well, they have, unfortunately, they've been retired from this race due to the damage to the car, so they will be receiving a qualifying ban. That's Presley Martono will receive a qualifying ban going into the next race. But right now we do look to Dogano here in P8, who doesn't have any of those things to worry about. He just has to worry about the fact he's got a boat behind him, sorry, a Bentley I should say, that is giving a hot pursuit as they make their way down towards turn number 1. And it is the Boatley boys Vessel that is trying to find a way on through as he looks at a move on the inside, but he's not quite there once again. And Dogano able to just take the brakes a little bit deeper into the corner by comparison. Brigger, who's really trying to put that pressure on as they make the way on around and down towards turn number 3 once again. As they roll them through it in the meantime, I can tell you that from looking at these guys towards the front to the two who are right at the front, Luke Whitehead and Tinko van der Velde are continuing to exchange lap times like it's going out of style, with Tinko van der Velde holding firm on the fastest lap of the race. And these two, well, their last laps respectively separated by only 2 thousandths of a second, with Whitehead 2 thousandths slower than Tinko van der Velde. And I do think that both drivers are looking to run to a particular pace, and it may be the case that they are both just trying to make the fuel last a little bit longer in order to be able to go a bit deeper for the opening stint, particularly Tinko van der Velde here with that fuel deficit that the Mercedes does have in terms of its fuel efficiency. But the Porsche, by comparison, of course, quite sensitive on its tyres, and Whitehead will be, I think, appreciative of the fact he's not been made to work those tyres as hard as perhaps van der Velde could make him work them. But again, with these two racing at such a rapid pace, and well, Daniel Sharapinin have been dropped to 3.7 seconds back by comparison, and Sharapinin, that last lap, to be fair, at 34.9, he's only losing about a tenth to 1.5 tenths a lap, but that time is building up lap on lap. You can imagine that it is one of those situations whereby just continuing to try and come back a little bit later on. Now we can see there in the YouTube chat what was from Leo Anderson to say decent start from Joshua Allen and from Jack and Xander, and indeed it is the case. Joshua Allen putting in a very good start and moving quite a way up the order, up into what is P15 currently. We do have, remember, a couple of pit stops that have been taken from drivers involved in the open lap incident, and some drivers who have already just made pit stops as part of their strategy. So it is the case that Joshua Allen, whilst he's listed P15, may in the overall scheme of things perhaps be 1 or 2 places lower, 1 or 2 places higher, but yes, looking good so far. And a little bit behind him he does have Pavlo Denishenko, who is continuing that pursuit. And remember, this was the driver who started last, Denishenko, and he has made his way up to P16 already. And again, much like Joshua Allen, getting a good start to his race here and steering clear of trouble. And to be fair, Denishenko, whilst he wasn't permitted to take part in qualifying, he was disqualified from qualifying, it was the case that I think the 141 driver has realised this is an opportunity to steer clear of the trouble. And in terms of his lap times right now, he's matching Joshua Allen very nicely and running in the 35s on a regular basis, and well, sorry, in the 36s I should say, on a regular basis, and looking good right now and continuing to build that momentum as he makes his way on around. But meanwhile, he's come out of the pits quite recently, and that is Rafael Donado, who has taken that drive-through penalty, and that's dropped him all the way out the top 10 to P16, and that is a very frustrating day at the office for the Cortec Racing driver. But he's got a lot of time still in this race. It's not as though his race is over yet. But speaking of one driver who will feel if he can't make the moves, his race may be over, and that is Victor Nicolai, who we ride on board here, and the BMW driver going on the offensive, coming up into turn number 9 versus, that is Joe Coffin, who's gone a little bit deep, and as they make the way into turn number 10, he's going to try and go around the outside, but there's a little bit of door-to-door contact, and as they come through there, Joe Coffin defending his line as he has the right to. He flashes the hazards there to say, I apologise, and I think they're both flashing their lights. I think they both feel as though perhaps they've made unwarranted contact, but in the end, Nicolai's going to look at the move up the inside into the chicane. They give one other the space here, but it's very hard to make a pass through 11 into 12, and as they come out of 12 and now make the way up into 13, you can understand it from the BMW driver's perspective. He needs to get past to make his strategy work. You can understand it from Coffin's perspective, which is he just doesn't want to let him through for the simple reason he wants to try and hold track position. As they make the way through turn 14 and on towards the start finish straight, this is the opportunity as Nicolai immediately peels out from behind the Porsche driver, and it is the case that Nicolai's going to be on the inside of Coffin as they make the way down into turn number 1, and under braking here, I think the Romanian's going to get it done. It's still going to be very close between these two, but in the end it is a place gained. And to be fair, Joe Coffin putting up a great defence there. And as they make the way into 2 and 3, coming through turn number 2 and now up into turn number 3, I think it is the case that Victor Nicolai will continue to crusade his way out the field. The next target, Dominic Linker, as you can see him here, the German driver for T3 Motorsport, who is just literally 1 second up the road. And now the German driver is going to have a BMW close in very quickly as they make the way into turn number 7. But remember, they are on different strategies, these drivers, and we'll have to see how those strategies play on out a little bit later. As meanwhile, a little bit further back, going from one Audi to another, we do have Timmy Latonen, who is closing up to the back here of Simeone as they make the way through turn number 7 here, and the Audi driver giving it that relentless pursuit, and he's been doing this for some time, to be fair. He's been chasing the BMW in front of him, has the fin, as they make the way up into turn number 9, but he hasn't been able to quite find the advantage yet as they come through the corner and head in towards 10. But as I exit out, I can tell you that in terms of a driver who has cleared both of his mandatory pit stops, that is Ivan Fornes down in P31 at this point in time. And I think his logic behind that is now he's cleared his stops, he'll just run into the end of the race. And well, he'll be hoping he can get to the end. He'll probably doing some fuel saving in that mix as well. But we see Latonen here not able to find his way past him because a little bit deep there into 11 actually compromises his line through 12, but keeps it very nicely together as they come down in towards 13. But we look from them to a bit further up the road right now, and we go to our P10 driver of Amadeo Castorino here, who the Italian driver for Sim Racing, as he makes his way through from one BMW being chased to one BMW on the chase. And it is the case, well, he is looking to try and close up to what is there, Lucas Seedorf. Now, you may be noticing on the timing screens there, ladies and gentlemen, we do have what is the absence of Tinko van der Velde. And I'm hearing it in my ear, and I do apologise to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, that we have heard that Tinko van der Velde has retired from the race. It is the case that the Dutchman, well, he had a great start, but he has retired due to technical issues with the car. There's been engine failure, and that means as we look up towards our leader, Luke Whitehead right now is leading this race, 4.5 seconds ahead of Daniel Sherapinin, and van der Velde will be absolutely fuming at the fact the car has failed him as they make their way across that timeline. You can see behind there is Daniel Sherapinin, the best part of what is 4.5 seconds back, and that's unfortunate. I'm sorry to bring you that news. We're only halfway. We're not even halfway there yet in terms of the race. We're not even half an hour of the way there yet. But it is the case. We have had 2 retirements so far. We had the retirement of Presley Martono due to damage picked up on the opening lap. And now we've had the retirement of Tinko van der Velde, who was running second at the time. And that is due to engine failure on the car. And they've had to bring the car off the circuit. But that means, of course, Harry Phillips has gained and gone to P3. Indeed, everybody behind P2 has gained a place as a result right now. As we do a look back down the order once again. And I can tell you that one driver who's trying to crusade his way back up the field right now is Rafael Donato, who goes around the outside of Denishenko here as they come through turn number 1. And remember, it is the case that Donato is trying to get the places back due to the drive-through penalty, and as he comes up into 2, he's going to go around the outside. That is a very brave move. He's going to make it stick it to 3 under braking. The Bollers Esport driver gives him the space, and my goodness, Donato, that is incredibly brave, and he's got it done, has the Italian, as he makes his way up towards turn number 7, and that could be a critical move for him, having an opportunity to get back into the top 10 come the end of this race as he makes his way through the right-hander turn number 7. Now as he comes on through, Denishenko just holds him behind, and a bit further down the order, I can tell you that Marcus Fox right now is 10 seconds off of these guys and will be trying to close up, knowing that they're exchanging places and costing one another lap time. Meanwhile, behind him, a bit further down the order in P22, we still do have Timmy Latonen, who is giving a pursuit here of Simone as they make their way through turn number 7. We ride on board here with the Audi driver. Now, I think one of the big frustrations that Latonen is having here in chasing the BMW goes a little bit wide, but Latonen goes very high in the apex there and actually has to stop the car from getting unsettled as they both make their way through turn number 9 and head up towards turn number 10 here. I think it's the case that Latonen can get close, but once he gets to within about 0.2 of a second, and that's really where he needs to be to look for the moves, he's feeling that wall of dirty air off of the BMW as it punches a hole in the air in front of him for him, and that is causing him just to understeer a little bit through these corners and not get the lines he wants as he comes through turn at number 11 and into 12 here. He's looking smooth, to be fair, but at the same time I think both drivers giving it their everything as they make their way down towards turn number 13, but Latonen falling back once again as he comes through the right-hander. I think he'll be looking for another opportunity on another lap right now as he comes on through here, and we are an hour left in this race. We have 30 minutes completed, an hour left as these drivers make the way on to lap number 19. And as they come on across that line at this point in time, both drivers are pushing as hard as they can, and indeed it will be the same for our drivers further up the order. And well, speaking of drivers further up the order who are in an endless battle, it is the case that Ryan and David Boege and also Degano, well, these two have been inseparable for some time, and you can see behind them there, I think that is a car being lapped, unless I'm very much mistaken. That's Cody Cosford in P25, just tucked in amongst the leaders as they'll come through. In fact, in P27, my apologies, just updating the timing screen there, and it is the case Cosford right now just coming through, having made one pit stop already, and I think it's the Team Bollers Esport driver who's just going to be getting his head down and looking to try and dig a result out of this. as he makes his way on around. Now, as he comes on through in the meantime, it is the situation as he presses on around the circuit. I'm just checking in with the stewards once again, and I do believe we've got a 10-second time penalty, which is going to be applied to car number 99 very shortly, and that is in the form of Simeone here, and that is for a push to pass on car number 25. Well, that's been deemed by the stewards, and that's a push to pass on Chris Zoiga, who's all the way down in P29, and I think this was an incident on lap 15, so it's happened some time ago, and it's only just now being picked up by our stewards, so I'm expecting that there's going to be a penalty that appears in a short while, because it hasn't quite been confirmed yet, but it is being queued up for what is the stewarding board as they make the way out of the right-hander, and I think for Simone, he's not going to be very happy when he sees that come after working his way past and away from Latonen, and now he'll be definitely falling back behind Latonen during the pit window. Of course, in terms of a 10-second time penalty or any time penalties our drivers receive, they will serve it in their next pit stop. In terms of the pit crew must wait there until the penalty has been served before they can work on the car. Alternatively, they have it added to the end of their race time. There's no more pit stop scheduled. I'm going from him to into the pit. David Brega, who's made a pit stop, he's made his opening pit stop, and he comes out in P15, the Bentley driver now, as he comes on through. He comes out not in P15, my apologies, P22 as our time board's updated. The Boatley Voyage driver here, has he got himself some clear air? Doesn't look as though he's got himself the air he wanted. In fact, he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him in the form of a BMW there, and I believe that is Vittorio Simeone. No, Simeone is a little bit further up the road, so we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I think that's the Joker's esports machine of Ivan Fornes, actually, who is a lap down, so the Spaniard will be expected to move out the way with blue flags in mind, but I think Brega right now may have timed this pit stop just a little bit unfortunately, in the fact that it's going to be one of those situations where he does have to clear some drivers who are up the road ahead of him, as Tobias Linden also comes out the pits from what I'm seeing outside of my commentary box window. But as our drivers continue their way on around right now, we do look a little bit further up the order to Joe Coffin here, who's in a bit of a side-by-side battle with Simeone, and as they come through the corner, well, this has been building up for some time, the move. Let's take a look back. So this was the run into turn number 9, and you can see the number 99 car drag of Simone as they made the way through, and then it was a continued side-by-side through turn number 10 between these two as they made the way through the corners, and well, brilliant side-by-side action. You can see Latonen there just tucked in behind, looking for that opportunity, and it was as they came down into turn number 11, well, in the end, Coffin, whilst trying to hold that line, in the end just tucking in behind, realising it would not be worth it, trying to make it too wide through the chicane, as we do return to those live pictures right now, and it is the case that racing continues there as we see Joe Coffin in the Long Live the DFGT machine. Well, he has lost out to Timmy Latonen, and I believe, as we do get a little bit of lag there, my apologies ladies and gentlemen, that should be resolved in very short order, but it is the case that Timmy Latonen right now has found his way on past what is Joe Coffin as well. It was made down into turn number 1, but as these guys continue on through in the meantime, we do look a little bit further up the road, and we look to Kevin Gelling. Well, I believe we have not got Kevin Gelling. In fact, I think there has been another retirement, as I'm seeing on my time board right now. Kevin Gelling is no longer running around on the circuit, and I think Team ITR have lost a driver in terms of their driver has had technical issues with the car. As I'm just checking in with the stewards right now, not hearing anything, but it is the case that, well, Kevin Gelling has retired from the race. The Intruder Racing team have lost one driver. They still do have Vesfield, however, currently in P5 as he makes his way out of turn number 3 and heading through 4 up towards 7. And as he makes one through right now, I've actually just received confirmation from Kevin Gelling that unfortunately they have had to retire the car due to technical issues with the engine, and as a result, well, the Ferrari has lost out, but can the Porsche Intruder Racing team stay in the mix as he makes his way into turn number 8? Well, we'll have to wait and find out, but it looks like Vesfield right now doing everything he can to stay in that top 5 as he comes on through the right-hander there and makes his way up into turn number 10. As he comes on through into left-hander right now, Vesfield doing everything in his power to hold on, as we do continue to see some slight delays there with regards to the server, just some slight lag spikes there, but those are gradually being resolved as our drivers continue their way on around right now, and it is the case of Vesfield here pressing on all the same as he makes his way through turn number 12. In terms of pit stops right now, what I can tell you that outside of what is Victor Nicolai in P15, it's the case that the rest of our top 15 have yet to make their opening pit stop, and this really goes to show right now a lot of our drivers looking to run their opening stint as long as possible and just hold on in there as they make their way on around the circuit. But as we look to Vesfield here, we can see a little bit further back, and I think it's just Sebastian Apostel there in P7 and the BMW M4 driver running a very smooth race right now, albeit it's perhaps not gone the way he wanted, losing out to Dogano quite early on, but at the same time he's not too far back, only 4.8 seconds off the back of Dogano. And I think he'll be trying to get himself back in the fight a little bit later as he makes his way on around. As we do see there, Harry Conan in the Twitch chat, that's Kevin Gennin saying, my game crash never happened before and want to cry. I do feel for you, Kevin, but we do have another 7 rounds and we look forward to seeing you come back in a week's time. It's very unfortunate, and well, I do extend my sympathies as we do continue to see some slight bits of latency there on the server, and I do wonder whether that's just the case, that there's a slight technical issue that is being resolved in the background. But as we see Sebastian Apostel here making his way on through, and we are seeing just these issues materialise every so often. But meanwhile, we look from up towards the front of the field to down towards the back of the field, and we can see it's Cody Cotsford right now, who is in P30, having just made his second and final stop. He is, I think, trying to go to the end after what was essentially a bit of a difficult start to his race, and we can see just coming out of the pits a bit further up the road, albeit a lap ahead. That was Joshua Allen, who's come out of the pits in P22 here, as our timing screen is gradually updated, and as he makes his way through the right into left here of 2 into 3, you can see he's come out right behind quite the pack of traffic, and well, that is not Joe Coffin directly in front of him. He will need to close up to Joe Coffin in some time, but right now he does have quite the BMW army in front of him. Some of those drivers, of course, a lap down, some of those drivers a lap up, and it is the case, well, in front of him right now he does have, I believe, that is Vittorio Simone, and indeed that is Vittorio Simone, who he will need to battle with. They're both battling for track position as they come through turn number 8, and we do have ahead of them, then we have Ivan Fornes, who is a lap down, and well, at the very tip of the spear we do have David Brega here, who in the Bentley has made a pit stop and is racing for position as they make their way through turn number 10 and head up towards turns 11 and 12 once again. As they come through in the meantime, and we are continuing to see just those slight technical issues materialise every so often, but I do hope they go away soon. It is the case that all of our drivers are pressing on around for the time being. We do see Luke Whitehead here leading at this point in time and continue to extend his lead versus Daniel Sherpinin to 5 seconds as they make their way on around the circuit. And we can see it is the case that Luke Whitehead doing everything in his power right now to hold firm, and I think feeling very confident and comfortable with that lead as Sherpinin continues to pursue here, but it is going the way of Whitehead. The last lap, another 10th separating the two of them, with Daniel Sherpinin being a 10th of a second slower on the lap, and then Harry Phillips in P3 right now. And it is the case, the Wild Things Racing driver just continuing to challenge on, having dropped Oleg Zabolov partially here, the Ferrari driver in P4 for S&P Racing Esports. But it is the case, he is matching Harry Phillips on lap time for the most part, as Harry Phillips comes across the timeline this time around of 35.5 versus Oleg Zabolov's 35.6. So another 10th lost by the Russian, but it's not a huge amount of time being lost. Vesfield just coming across that timeline as well, and he's currently P5, but you can see behind him there he does have Lucas Dogano, who is closing up behind as they make the way out of turn 1 and in towards 2. But we ride on board here with the Intruder Racing Team driver as they come up into turn number 2. And as they flow through the right into left this time around, it is looking as though Vesfield just keeping it nice and firm for the time being. But as they exit out the corner, and we do get another slight latency spike there, it does look as though Vesfield is soldiering on all the same as he comes through turn 6 up into 8. But looking good at the moment is the Intruder Racing Team driver as he comes charging up into turn number 8. And as he makes his way on through the corner at this point, Dogano looking firm and staying with him all the same here. I think Dogano at this point just trying to stay in the tracks of the Porsche driver and not force anything spectacular. For the simple reason, I think if he does try and go for any sort of move at this point, it's only going to cost the two of them a significant amount of time and could lead to Apostel, who is 4 seconds down the road, closing up to them in very short order. As they come on through the sequence of corners there, as they make their way through up towards turn number 11, we can see Sebastian Apostel here, we were talking about only moments ago, in P7, as he comes on through and up towards turn number 11. Lucas Sidor, meanwhile, the Volante Racing driver here with Castorino still behind him, and Mavaka, and one driver we haven't actually talked about at all today so far, Mattia Vacca, who's had a very quiet race to be fair, but he has gained. And Mattia Vacca, the Bentley driver here for Team Bollers Esport, the Italian, well, a bit of the Italian stallion with him as he makes his way down towards turn number 13, because he is in our top 10. Now, in terms of how he's placing so far, looking rather good, chasing after Castorino here. And we do know the Bentley, very strong over race distance in terms of its fuel and tyre conservation, but it loses out in the straights. Fortunately for us here at Zandvoort, we don't have that many long straights. So as a result, Mattia Vaca feeling quite confident, as we do have into the pits. We do have both Vesfield and also Harry Phillips and also Gareth Mills there in the rear view picture, but he's not in the top 10, but he's also in, as we also have Donato coming in. All these drivers are making this pit stop at this point, and it does promote a number of drivers up the order. Now we'll have to wait and see how it plays out for them in terms of where they come back out. Remembering that Harry Phillips was ahead of Vesfield when the pit stop started, and he was in P3, Vesfield was P5, but we'll wait to see how it plays out when the pit stops end in terms of who is doing what in the pits as our drivers continue to make their way on around. But meanwhile, we do see Lucas Seedor here holding on to P6 for the time being, and well, Harry Phillips has cleared his pit stop, he's back out on circuit, and Vesfield in fact has come out behind him as I look out my commentary box window. We do cut back to the pair of them, and you can see here Harry Phillips has actually managed to get himself out ahead of a good amount of traffic here. He's only got in front of him, that's Dominic Linker ahead right now as they make the way down towards turn number 7. Meanwhile, Vesfield has come out in a very, very difficult situation because he's come out in P18, and I do believe that he's come out behind, unless I'm mistaken, he's come out behind Joe Coffin, who's battling for position here as they make their way up towards turn number 7. Now, Vesfield will need to get a move on quickly as he makes his way down to turn 7. He goes to the move immediately, and Joe Coffin, to be fair, giving him the space, and he didn't necessarily have to. He could have gone defensive or just taken the natural line there into turn number 7, but he's yielded. I think Joe Coffin recognising that he's not in a battle with Vesfield as they make the way through the corner as they come through the right hander there of turn number 9 and up into 10. Meanwhile, into the pits, I'm hearing is Mattia Vaca as they're bringing the Bentley on in. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are experiencing some slight latency issues with the server at the moment. If we can get those fixed, we will, but you'll just have to bear with us as we'll back it into the pit, and we can see him here in the pit right now. And where's he going to come out? And Oleg Zabolov also in the pit, and Daniel Sherapinin as well. There's quite a few reactions occurring here as Daniel Sherapinin leaves the pit, and well, in terms of coming out, where is Harry Phillips is the big question, because Harry Phillips was ahead. Well, no, he was not ahead of Sherapinin. It was the case that Harry Phillips was behind. And well, here's Daniel Sherapinin, who's currently dropped down to P9. Where is Harry Phillips by comparison? P11. So it's the case that they stay as they were in terms of the order of things. But I do think that Harry Phillips has lost out a little bit here, as between him and what is Daniel Sherapinin, I think he does have now Oleg Zabolov. We're waiting for those time screens to be updated as Harry Phillips is now in P11. In fact, that's Marcus Fox ahead of him, and it's Marcus Fox between the two of them as they make the way on around and down towards turn number 7. Now, as the Fox Sim Racing driver here comes on through the right hander of turn number 7 and heading up towards 8, it is the case that Marcus Fox pressing on here. We've still got cloudy conditions, no sign of the weather changing here, rain being on the cards, alternatively just sunshine. It is the case we've still got overcast skies, track temperature has dropped by a degree centigrade by comparison with how it was earlier on as our drivers make the way on around, but it does look as though Marcus Fox at this time just keeping his head down and getting on with the racing, as I think we are going to be seeing some server issues throughout the rest of the night, which is very unfortunate, ladies and gentlemen, and I do apologise for that. There's unfortunately nothing we can do about those as far as I'm aware. I think it is server side only at this point in time, but as our drivers continue around, we do see that Simeon has now received the 10-second penalty that I talked about earlier on. It has been accredited to his car, and that was for the push to pass versus car number 25. Car number 25, of course, being Chris Zoiga, who's all the way down in P30, and that will be some compensation for a driver who has not had it go his way. Into the pits as well has become Luca Degano, and we've also got Lucas Seedor here in the pit, and we've got Andrea Francini right now up in P3, who has yet to take a pit stop, to be fair, the Bentley driver, as the Italian makes his way on around. I think for Francini at this point, it's more about just keeping his head down and trying to get a result out of this one and giving himself track position, interestingly enough. Francini staying out, one of the longest drivers to stay out, much like Apostle and also Castorina, as Luke Whitehead has come into the pits and taken his pit stop, and he's come out in P5, has what was our race leader, and you can see just up the road there Denishenko, and he's also got Francini just a bit further up the road from them. We've got a drive-through penalty for David Brege, and well, I'm not sure what that's for. We're going to be finding out very shortly, but it is the case some more penalties being accrued as we're just about to hit the halfway point of this race as our drivers continue on around. And well, the drive-through penalty for the Bentley driver from the Boatley Boys team of David Brege is for the following: the car number Whereas car number 7 has received a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact, and that was hitting the rear of car 48 on the exit of the final corner. Car number 48 is one Vittorio Simone, and I believe, well, we didn't see the contact between the two of them out on circuit. There's been contact, and Reye has been found to be at fault, or at least that's what the judges have decided, our stewards have decided, and he will be receiving a drive-through penalty, and that's a bit unfortunate for what was going to be a very strong performance for the season opener for the Bentley driver. It has now been undermined somewhat by that penalty, but we are in the pit stop time at the moment, as we see in the YouTube chat there. What is Nicola Vacca saying Matto, and unfortunately I do not know how to translate Italian into English. Unfortunately, it's not one of my strong suits, it's a skill I lack, but I do believe that Nicola Vacca is cheering on one Mattia Vacca, who right now making his way out of turn number 12 and heading up towards turns 13 and 14. But behind him, also just ahead of him right now, is Lucas Seedorf. Seedorf have found a way on through, and as they make their way around right now in pit stop season right now, it is the case that the strategies ebbing and flying. We'll have to wait and see who comes out where when it's all said and done, but I do think we're going to be seeing a shake-up in the order as all the drivers continue to press on through. But meanwhile, as we look here from what is P15 in the hands of Mattia Vacca to a bit further up the road as our drivers continue on around, it is the case that our race leader right now is Sebastian Aposto, who's yet to pit, I should point out, and Castorino a best part of 5.4 seconds behind. But I think it's the case the BMW driver here will be very happy with how things are going at this point in time. And will the West Competition Racing driver, is he going to peel in this time? He does indeed. He's taken the car as far as he can. He's decided to come into the pits, and this will likely be a, not necessarily a tyre change, but definitely putting fuel in the car. What about Amadeo Castorino? Does he come in? No, he goes on to take the lead of this race as the Italian, as behind there we did have one of the Cortec Mercedes coming in, and I think, I'm not 100% sure who that was, but I also do know that Andrea Francini has decided to stay out on track as they make their way across the line. But there in the rear of your picture you can see Luke Whitehead is into the pits, comes Denishenko there from P5, so he's decided enough's enough, and well, Victor Nicolai a bit further back. And to be fair, now Victor Nicolai, now these are very important drivers to watch here, ladies and gentlemen. Why do I say this? He was the first of our leaders to pit. He pitted approximately 20 minutes in, and as he comes on into the pit lane this time, it is the case the remaining driver here from West Competition Racing, this is his second stop. He is going to clear 2 stops very quickly, and I think here, depending on how long this pit stop is, this could give him a huge opportunity to finish inside the top 5, although I think this may be a long stop as we see where's while the Cortec machines leave the pit. But we look from him to into the pits comes Martin Van Munster as he makes his way on through. He's currently what is P30, the last of our runners active out on circuit, and still plenty more to come in this race as we are just waiting to see how all the different pit stops really do settle the order right down. It's a bit hard to read at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, for the simple reason that with so many pit stops happening in parallel, and also the fact a number of drivers out of position with incidents earlier on in the race, we are just waiting for that picture to settle before we can tell you exactly what's happened. But big things to take away so far is that we believe that Luke Whitehead is still our overall leader when you account for the first round of pit stops complete. But we do have that big question with regards to Victor Nicolai, who's come out in P17, and the BMW driver has now cleared both of his mandatory pit stops. And also Timmy Latonen behind him has done the same, P18. But we'll wait and see how it goes for both drivers. As we see Dogana there running wide out of turn number 10, and that's going to cost him some time here in P11. He hasn't got too much pressure, to be fair. Behind him, he does have one of his teammates closing up. And as a result, look at Dogano right now just trying to keep his head down after what has been a difficult race so far. And as he makes his way out of turn number 12 and up towards 13 and 14 at this point in time, just pressing on all the same. But we look from him to a bit further up the road, and that is in the form of Harry Phillips here, currently running in P4. What with the fact that Castorino has come into the pits, and well, Castorino was leading the race, and Francini is still leading. Andrea Francini, that is the case. Francini has yet to make a pit stop. Now, the key takeaways that we need to take from this race so far in terms of over the opening half is it would seem that strategy has been just as important as trying to get those overtakes, and well, Luke Whitehead has been the fastest man out on circuit so far, with Tinko van der Velde having that retirement just behind him before the first round of pit stops, which was very unfortunate. And well, I'm hearing that Tinko van der Velde has had everything go wrong with the car. I've just had confirmation from the Dutchman that the car failed on it, the engine went, and as a result of Tinko van der Velde having to take a retirement, which, well, that's going to absolutely stump the start to his campaign. But still, 7 rounds after that, plenty more racing to come. As meanwhile, Vesfield here making his way on through and into what is turn number 9 and coming up towards turn number 10. And he has just found his way past what is Sebastian Apostle. We just missed that. And as they make the way through the left-hander here at turn number 10, I think for the BMW driver will now just be trying to close up to the back of Vesfield and just run his race. Remember, both drivers have yet to make their second pit stop, so for both of them, it is the situation right now whereby they'll be looking to try and bring their strategy to its natural conclusion and see where they come out. Another driver doing that will be Rafael Donato here. He's going to look round at what is Joshua Allen there, and well, this is a bit of a difficult one as they come through the left-hander there of turn number 10, and Rafael Donato, as we ride on board with him, well, he's got a bit of an awkward situation in the form. He's got one of his teammates who's trying to come on through, and as they make the way through the right into left here, well, he's battling with Joshua Allen, and as they come on through, we do get a little bit of a latency issue there, and you can see Joshua Allen really struggling for corner exit. And as they make the way into turn number 13 right now, it is the case that Rafael's not able to find a way through, and instead Joshua Allen holds firm as they make the way through turn number 14. I do think there may be some technical issues in the background with the server, ladies and gentlemen, but we can see Joshua Allen peels into the pits. There's no issues with that. But meanwhile, Donato here, as he makes his way across that timeline, well, that was very close to the point. He's lost a lot of time, so much so that P13 man David Buege has closed up dramatically in that sequence as he makes his way on through. And I think that's Giovanni Izzo tucked in behind what was Donato as they made the way on around. As they come through the right into left here, it turns 12 into 13. It is the case that both drivers are pressing on as they come through the corners. Now, as they do in the meantime, it is the situation that as they make the way on around, I think for David Brega at this point, it's going to be all about just keeping his head down and continuing this performance all the way through to its conclusion, because it has been a difficult race for him, but at the same time, he can recover and get back into the top 10 if he plays his cards right, and that's what it's all about now. After that penalty, which has cost him a lot of race time, he just needs to try and keep it together, as indeed all of our drivers do, with plenty of time still available in this race, and anybody can make a mistake at any moment and see it all go to smithereens in terms of what was looking to be, say, a top 10 or even a chance at a top 5. It all falls away. But right now, as our drivers continue to make their way around, we see a blue flag there being waved, and I do believe that is for Giovanni Izzo, unless I'm very much mistaken, as well, no, it's not Giovanni Izzo. My apologies. Giovanni Izzo coming out of what is the final corner there. So instead, that is for, I think, Christian Nimbrini. In fact, yes, it is for Christian Nimbrini, as we do look at the Italian driver right now for Quartet Racing 1, as he makes his way through the right-hander of 13, through 14, and to the end of his current lap. As he makes his way across that timeline, once again here, 37 minutes to go. We can see Ivan Fornes there lifting off in the run into turn number 1. It is the case that both drivers soldiering on through, and well, both of them looking to try and just simply bring what they can out of this race. And remember, Nimbrini will be battling with Ivan Fornes for P25 as they make their way through turn 2 and up into 3. And Fornes here, I think he'll be aware of the blue flags, but he'll also be aware of the fact that the guy behind him is not someone he wants to give the position to. As you can see there, Nimbrini getting a little bit of a tank slap on the rear end, a bit of oversteer on power on exit as they make the way through what is turn number 5 up into 6, and now charging in towards turn number 7. But as they make the way through on the right hand here, turn number 7, and head up towards 8, it is the case. Well, Ivan Fornes under a lot of pressure, and as they make the way through the right-hander, well, it's one of those situations whereby I think Fornes is under a lot of pressure, and there's contact between the two drivers there, with Nimbrini looking for a move. He backs out in the end, but you can see who's now really feeling the pain. It's Brega behind in the Bentley, who immediately is let through there by Nimbrini as they come through. Both drivers let him through, and well, Ivan Fornes here will feel as though he's done enough to be given a little bit of a breather, but I think Nimbrini's going to come back at him very soon, as it is the case the Bentley is coming through and is in P12 and trying to go after leaders, as meanwhile these two are battling for P25. Now, as they make the way on around in the meantime, we do look a little bit further down the order to see Chris Zoiger here, who's in pursuit of Cody Cosford for P27, the Swiss from CHF Motorsport, having been involved in that opening lap incident. Well, since then, it has not been the way he's wanted it, but I think the Swiss is just trying to get back into the fight right now versus Cosford as they come through turn number 14, and as they make the way through the right-hander here, looking good as Cosford goes a little bit deep, and meanwhile, just up the road, you can see Ivan Fornes under pressure from what was Nimbrini, but no change. Meanwhile, Cosford holding on to P27 in the meantime, but under a huge amount of pressure. It's building as they make the way through turn number 1 and on towards 2 and 3, and we look on board Chris Zoiger right now, who continues that pursuit. And you can see there just how close he got under turn number 2 under braking. And as they make the way through turn number 3, I think it's the case that Cosworth just struggling for rear grip on that Ferrari, not on that Ferrari, on that McLaren right now. The rear just coming loose as they made the way through 3, and now it's a long charge up towards turn number 7. But as they make the way flat out through here, it is the case that Chris Zoiger in the Porsche will have to do it all through the corners as he gets very close through turn number 7. You can just see how much more pace he carries through each and every apex, and he's going to look for the move here into turn number 8. It's going to be side by side, and he's able to keep his nose in, and it means that Cosworth has to afford him the inside line. Zoiger's going to go very deep on the brakes to get it done, and he's now going to have to watch out for the cutback, and he shuts the door, and it is P27 in the hands of Chris Zoiger. It won't be what he wanted, been battling for, but I think he'll be pleased that he's taken the position as they make the way down towards turn number 11. We look from them to what is Nembrini versus Fornes, and Fornes is now breaking away to a degree from Nembrini in the battle for P25. But looking from them all the way back up to P8, we can see that Luca Dogano has just found his way past Apostle, and as they make the way on around once again, we take a look back. Well, here it was, the run for the move for what was P7 at the time, and well, we're looking at Luca Dogano in particular, and it was a slipstream run down towards turn number 1. I think Apostle at this point knew it was coming, and I don't think offered a defense. And you can see Dogano here. In fact, Apostle did go defensive and just gave him enough room to the wall, and in the end they made the way under braking, where you can see he was made to go as daring as possible. Great racing respect between the two of them all the same. And now as we've shortly returned to live pictures, it is Luca Dogano up to P7, Sebastian Apostle down to P8. As we return to live pictures, and we can see that in P5 Simeon has still to serve that 10-second penalty. As meanwhile in the chat, well, I've just learned a little bit something today from Gianluca Vacca in the YouTube chat, which is Vacca means cow in English. Maybe someone wants to know, just FY, Vacca the flying cow. Indeed, Mattia Vacca is a bit of the flying cow right now, as we can see him here in P9, the Team Ballers Esport, and he's still yet to take his final pit stop, but he is soldiering on. But he does have Amadeo Castorino chasing after him, the BMW M4 right now, and these two looking to finish inside the top 10 on their season opener. Can they do it is the question. We will have to wait and see as they make the way through turns 11 and 12. Now as they come through this time, we just check in with the stewards once more, and right now I think we do have some more stewarding decisions on their way very shortly indeed. Mattia Vacca actually getting a 10-second penalty for car number 16, and that is for a push to pass on car number 199, and we've also got a drive-through penalty for Castorino, so let's dissect those for you. The drive-through penalty for car number 23, so that is Amadeo Castorino, is for what is pulling out of the pits, running out wide on the exit of turn 1 and causing contact with car number, what is 199. So car number 199, to give you an idea of who's been affected, that's Lucas Seedor, in fact, who when I look at the timing screen is all the way down P21. He was right up there for just outside of the top 10, so his race has been completely spoiled by some contact by the sounds of things. And on top of that, a push to pass on car 16, and that was on also Lucas Seedor, and that was by Mattia Vacca. So both drivers there, well, the stewards are not happy with how they've treated the Polish driver. Lucas Seedor is down in P21, and as a result, both of them subject to penalties. Vacca a 10-second penalty, Castorino a drive-through penalty. On top of that as well, we've got what is a warning for aggressive driving for car number 56, and car number 56, that is, as I just checked my notes here, ladies and gentlemen, for you, as it is the case of learning all the numbers and whatnot, Ivan Fornes for aggressive driving in terms of trying to make a retake on, I believe, that was Nembrini. We saw that a little bit earlier on, in fact, the two of them coming together, and also what was aggressive driving from Nembrini as well. So both drivers here in the battle for P25 have been given warnings about their driving conduct standards as they battle for that P25 position as they make the way through turn number 10. But right now, we're just over half an hour of this race to go, and we've still got clouds over the circuit. No change in conditions at this point in time. We see Nembrini there looking for the move, but he tucks back in the end. These two definitely building to a boiling point right now, and I think a rivalry forming between these two is going to stay with us for the rest of the season, given how they're driving right now. And well, I hate to say this to you in the YouTube chat there, Boris, who is cheering on Lucas Seedor. Why is he down in P20 at this point in time? Where is due, I believe, as he came out the pits, or as he was coming by the pit exit, there was contact with both Mattia Vacca and also Amadeo Castorino, who, as you can see, Vacca there on the timing screens on your left-hand side, 10-second penalty and a drive-through penalty for Castorino. But it is the case that Lucas Seedor really has been the victim of two incidents, and that has seen his race drop away. But do not be afraid. The Volante Racing driver, I think, with half an hour to go and a number of drivers still yet to take their second stop, he could still creep into the top 15, but it's going to be a long journey back up the order, and you can see behind there Tobias Linden in P21, I think staying out the way the SLS Racing driver with another pit stop to go, and I think he'll be trying to target beating the likes of Joshua Allen at this point in time, as we also see there from what is Lewis Pop there in the YouTube chat saying stunning race of Luke. Indeed, Luke Whitehead right now leading this race by quite a sizable margin over Daniel Sherpinin. It's not a whole lap. Our time screen updates there to what is 8.7 seconds, but Luke Whitehead continuing to extend the lead here as he makes his way on through and around. But I do also think it might be the case that he does have to be wary of what his next pit stop brings in terms of how it can potentially shake up the order. As we are just a little bit further back, we do see here down in P15 we've got Timmy Latonen, who making his way through turn number 8 and up into 9 does have on here 6 right now Chris Zoiger, but I think Chris Zoiger a lap down by comparison and not really in the hunt right now as they make the way around. And indeed, I agree with you there, Boris, in the YouTube chat. Lucas Seidel, we talked about the bad luck he had in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship in 2021. That bad luck is staying with him, and well, I think he will have his day one day, but it is a long time before he's going to have that day, or at least at Zandvoort, as we see Ivan Fornes has been passed in the end by Christian Nembrini, and that is the two of them swap for P25, and it's Nembrini now up to P25, Ivan Fornes down to P26 as they make their way on around. But meanwhile, we look from them to Joe Coffin here in a side-by-side with what is Linker as they make their way down into the chicane. It's going to be very brave, but Joe Coffin goes high on the apex there. He gets it done, but Linker's going to try and come back here as they make their way down towards 13, but I don't think the Audi driver's got enough grunt to be able to get it done in such a short space of time. So Joe Coffin getting the run up towards turn number 11 and brave on the brakes around the outside to inside through the chicane. He's up to P18 and he continues on his way. But do remember, both of these drivers have yet to finish their second pit stop. And as they make the way down towards turn number 1, it is a situation whereby you can see Dominic Linker just trying to find a way back on through here, and the Audi just not giving him what he wants at this point in time. As into the pits, I can see out my contour box window is what is our Bentley driver of David Wigger. He just left the pits, in fact, so we'll see where he falls back into the order in short order. But right now, we still are awaiting the majority of our second stops, particularly from our top 10 drivers who've yet to make their second stops. But as I say, the one driver you want to be keeping your eyes out for, ladies and gentlemen, if we're not covering him, is P13 man, and that is the driver of one Victor Nicolai, who right now, well, he has made both of his stops and he is flying out on circuit. His last lap, a 35.0. To give you a comparison, Luke Whitehead's last lap, a 34.7. So Nicolai not quite on the leader's pace, but almost there. And as he makes his way around right now, he's got some more traffic appearing in front of him in the form of Andrea Faccini, who in P12 has yet to pit. Also got Dennis Schenko, who has yet to take his second pit stop. And I think they will both be looking to peel in soon, but we will wait and see, as we do see Victor Nicolai making his way down the start-finish straight and on to what for him is lap number 39, as he presses on all the same right now as they come driving on through. But as they make the way on around right now, it is the case that the racing does press on for all of our drivers. 27.5 minutes to go, plenty still to be decided. And well, as we look from our P13 man to our P3 driver Harry Phillips here, you can see, well, really Harry Phillips and Oleg Sobolov have been in just this back and forth concertina lap battle in terms of when Harry Phillips pulls off a good lap, Oleg Sobolov has to match it. That last lap from Harry Phillips of 35.2, Oleg Sobolov of 35.0. This time around, as they come across our timeline, Harry Phillips was a 35.1, Oleg Sobolov by comparison of 35.4. So this time Sobolov loses 3 tenths by comparison. But these two are just trading lap time left, right and centre, and it's incredible as the track temperature comes down another degree centigrade, but the track temperature is not coming down too rapidly because of the overcast conditions here. We're not seeing changeable conditions, and because of the number of drives out on circuit and how tight this circuit is, track temperature staying relatively firm, and the ambient temperature hasn't gone down since we started today's proceedings. What it means is right now, really, our drivers are running the cars in the most ideal or optimum state. Because we haven't had too much of a temperature shift, it means that for most of our drivers here, they're probably still in their ideal operating windows with regards to the temperature on those tyres and also the brakes, so there's not too much of a challenge there. Of course, everybody having to be mindful of the left-hand side tyres really taking a battering around here at Zandvoort, what with the circuit being what is a anti-clockwise circuit, so there's more right-hand turns than left-handers. There's a lot of traction power zones where those left-hand tyres are really being abused. It is the case that right now everyone has to manage those tyres, but also they're doing it quite comfy here. The conditions could have been much more changeable, but it is the case we do seem to just have clouds holding over the circuit. As I do check in once again with what is our stewards, and nothing at this point in time with regards to any further instance or whatnot. We will let you know if anything does come in with regards to decisions, but I think right now we are waiting, or we're at the mercy, I should say, of those second stops coming in, as Franchini has come into pits. Andrea Franchini is just leaving his pit box right now. He's cleared his 2 pit stops, as has Martin van Munster, just ahead of him, who is the lap down by comparison. Martin van Munster will be dropping back to, I think, last place overall at this point in time, but to be fair, soldiering on as he makes his way around. But Andrea Franchini drops down to P18, and now as a result that will mean the number 189 driver will have to try and now gain on the drivers who've yet to stop, such the likes of Joe Coffin and Dominic Linker, who are a bit further up the road from him, as he makes his way back up to speed. But as he comes on through in the meantime, we do continue to look around at the field a little bit more, and we do look down to P28 man Gareth Mills right now, who quite far down the order. And the GM4 racing driver here, the South African driver, in a little bit. I think this one is a bit of more of a trial session now, in terms of just trying to bring the car home and get some points on the board, but also just getting a feel for where the car may have some difficulties for upcoming circuits and where he can potentially look to refine those. And I think it's the same for Cody Cosford as well, to be fair. The majority of our drivers towards the back of the field have now cleared both of their stops. They'll be looking to gain through just overtakes towards the end and keeping it clean and keeping it together, and potentially overtaking drivers who are in the pits. We see Cosford, they go a little bit deep into the final corner, and behind him, that is, I believe, that is one of our West racing machines, West competition racing machines behind. That's catching up. That's one of the BMWs, and as they make their way on around, that's definitely not Victor Nicolai, in the fact that Victor Nicolai is in the blue machine, if I remember correctly. But as they make their way around right now, everybody just keeping their head down, and the blue flag's being waved there for Cody Cosford, and he'll know all too soon, and he pulls out the way there and moves aside as they make their way on to another lap. But we have 24 minutes still to go, and it is the case that our weather radar says for the next half an hour it is going to be overcast, so no unpredictable weather today by the looks of things. I can tell you that our race leader is still Luke Whitehead, leading by 10 seconds over Dennis Sherapinin. And Luke Whitehead, of course, the real story so far is that he does seem to have laid down that marker in terms of overall pace. He took pole position in the end by half a tenth over Tinko van der Velde, and well, the opening half an hour of this race did see Luke Whitehead and Tinko van der Velde bridging the rest of the field, and Tinko van der Velde was always 3 to 4 tenths a second behind, but due to engine difficulties, Tinko van der Velde had to retire after the opening half an hour, and that has really let Whitehead run away with things since then. I'm not saying he would have just simply brought this one to its conclusion, or van der Velde would have beaten him, but you do have to wonder a little bit of a what if in terms of if van der Velde had been behind him when the first round of pit stops had occurred, would we be seeing Whitehead as comfortable as he looks right now? Remember, we do have another pit stop, so anything can happen in the pits. We've seen that time and time again in series, both in the NXTGEN Racing Assetto Corsa Competition series and even Real World series. Things can go wrong in the pits. I'm not trying to put the commentators cursing him either, but right now it's all looking good for Luke Whitehead. And Danilo Sherapinin right now in P2, falling back lap on lap. That last lap losing another 4 tenths of a second, and Harry Phillips 7.2 seconds down on Danilo Sherapinin. And well, I can tell you one driver who is closing up to Harry Phillips right now and stripping lap time out to Harry Phillips. That is Oleg Zabolov here, P4, the S&P Racing Esports driver, gaining by the ground every lap, and well, it is impressive to see as we ride on board with the Ferrari driver. Now, as he makes his way out of turn number 13 and into 14, we won't see Harry Phillips initially until we come onto the straight here, and you'll get a little bit of perspective. You can just see Harry Phillips. And in fact, as we try to get into, well, I think it's going to be our case. The cameraman's going to give us the dashboard perspective. There we go. We can see as they make their way down to turn number 1. It is the case that Harry Phillips looks to be struggling a little bit with the tyres now as we're going deeper and deeper into this race, and the Porsche is very sensitive to tyre temperatures. We know that, and we can see that Zabolov just going a little bit too high in the apex curve at turn number 2, but gets the car back together. Both drivers are really pushing here. I think Zabolov is now in a much more comfortable state in terms of the state of the Ferrari versus Harry Phillips in the Porsche, and as they make the way in the long run up towards 7, you can see the two drivers very equally matched here in the long run, all the way up to and including turn number 7 as they roll the cars on down. I think for Zabolov at this point, it's one of those situations whereby he can see the target and it's giving him further motivation. He is taking the lap time out of Harry Phillips, but I think also Harry Phillips just driving on the limit to try and keep that gap a little bit longer. He wants it about 2 seconds rather than 1.5, for the simple reason the bigger the gap, the more leeway he's got to play with when he does come into the pits in terms of taking on fuel and whatnot as they make the way out of turn number 10 and up towards 11. We see in the chat there a number of you commenting on Luke Whitehead's pace. And to the Histrali in the YouTube chat saying amazing race pace from Luke Whitehead indeed. And well, as we continue to watch the battle for P3 here, inch ever closer. Zavolov taking another attempt out to Harry Phillips in sector 2. They make the way down towards sector 3 right now, and it does look as though Zavolov is reeling him in, but will we see a reaction at a pit stop? Now, if I had to be a betting man, I would say the majority of our leaders are going to try and pit right at the end of this race. They'll pit with 1 lap to spare, and I think the idea behind that will be to give themselves track position right at the finish. But some may go for the undercut, and remember, it may be the case they're only pitting to put fuel in the car, which means that in terms of the undercut, they need to come out and clear traffic as Harry Phillips goes deep, and Zavolov does the same as well, and these two are really pushing it. But Zavolov closed up on that lap a further 2 attempts, and that shows you the pace the Ferrari driver is deploying now as we go deeper and deeper into the final half an hour here. 20 minutes to go by the time these guys get up to turn number 7, and I do think that Harry Phillips is feeling some pain on the tyres in that Porsche 911 in front. As behind them we do have the Bentley of West David Brega, who is down just outside, we'll see, just outside the top 15, down in P18, the Bentley driver, as our drivers continue the way on around, but nothing from our stewards right now. In fact, I think we are going to be seeing some more stewarding reports coming soon. I think there's been a couple more incidents, but I think they're warnings, nothing more than that, but nothing to shape the complexion of this race. But one thing I can definitely tell you shaping the complexion of his race right now is the fact that Rafael Donato closing up very rapidly to the back of what is Sebastian Apostel as they make the way out of turn number 3. Now, in the long run, down from turn 3 up towards 7 here, we're going to be seeing that contrast. We'll look at the Mercedes power here on what is effectively a straight, albeit it's curved, but you can see how close he's getting, and he has to back off under braking into turn number 7 as the helicopter camera here gives you a real appreciation of just how fast Donato's running behind Apostel, and he's looking for that move already. You can just see he's literally slithering left, right, and centre behind the BMW M4, closing up under braking here, and Donato really trying to deliver the goods as they make the way up into turn number 2. He looks up the inside and he's not quite there. He has to wait for the opportunity, but he gets it done in the end. Apostel gives him the space to play with, and that's a drag race down towards the Audi chicane here. And well, we know one thing about the AMG, it's faster than the BMW in a drag race, and he's got it done. He moved across the front there to cut to the inside to defend, and a nice move from Rafael Donato to move up to P8. And well, I didn't think it was going to happen into P10, but he's proven me wrong, and what a brilliant move from the Cortec Racing drivers. He makes his way on through the corner and now goes up and onwards towards Mattia Vaca, who is, as he's just crossed the timeline, will wait for that update in terms of the gap between the two of them, but I do believe that Vaca, with that 10-second penalty, will be reeled back into the battle for P8. And well, in terms of the gap, it is 10.8 seconds. So Donato right now will be looking to close up. As in terms of pit stops, I can tell you that right now Harry Phillips has already made his second stop, and he's just, and this is important for Harry Phillips, he's just got out ahead of what is Mattia Vaca, and that could really shape things to come. Now, will we see a reaction pit stop from Oleg Zavolov in the battle for P3? That will be the question. We see Zavolov here, and he has caught some traffic, to be fair. Zavolov, this has not been the perfect lap. And as he makes his way through turn number 12 here and heads up towards 13 and 14, I can imagine that with the traffic he has had in the form of Cody Cosford as he makes his way through, and to be fair, Cosford would not have wanted to hold him. Of course, he would have respected the blue flags, but respecting the blue flags through some of the sections around here can be a little bit difficult. Will we see a reactionary pit stop from Zavolov? No, he goes on. So he's going to keep pushing here and decide to stay out just to try and take the tyres a little bit longer. But I do think with Harry Phillips making such a quick stop, it's only fuel going. I think for all of our leaders, it's only going to be fuel going in. But one thing our drivers have to worry about here, and for the uninitiated, when a driver comes into the pits and just has fuel put in the car, it is the case their tyre temperatures will drop down outside of the optimum operating window, and that means really you want to save that pit stop to as late as possible, because you've then got to spend at least 1 lap, if not 2 laps, trying to get the tyre temperatures back up. And Yesfield now is going to feel that exact same pain as the Intruder Racing Team driver comes in from P5. He drops down to P7 already, and well, it's going to be a quick splash and dash. Now, where's Rafael Donato? Well, there's Donato coming across the timeline right now. He's got to pit again. So really, in terms of competition, Vesfield's got to battle with Victor Nikolai, who right now making his way through the final corner. Vesfield's already cleared his pit stop, so I don't think Nikolai's done enough here to be able to close up to Vesfield as they make the way through. In fact, Vesfield has already got back out onto circuit, but you can see Nikolai here has closed up in terms of time. He's now on the back of Denishenko here. Well, the Romanian driver has pulled off a very interesting attempt at a double undercut. It hasn't quite worked out perhaps as much as he would like, but he's still putting in a lot of lap time right now. And I think he's definitely one to watch out for some rather interesting strategies. But Denishenko going defensive here through the corner. And to be fair, he is permitted to. He doesn't have to give up position just because it's the fact he hasn't pitted yet. And Denishenko doing what he wants to right now in terms of running his race. And the Bulls Esport driver here, the Ukrainian, remember, he started, and I should point out to you, he started at the back of the field. Denishenko. He has made his way all the way up to P11. Now, he does have to pit. We expect he will lose some positions when he pits, but just keep that in mind. And that has really been the grit of the Team Bullers Esport driver. He has made his way a long way up the field since the start, and it is a good sign for things to come as he makes his way on around as he comes on through with his left-hander and out turn number 10. I do think he's going to be wary of the fact that BMW M4 would have something to say about him being in P11 as they drag race their way down towards turn number 11 this time around, and where it's going to be the case, I think Denishenko doesn't have to worry. That BMW just not very fast out the corner, and in fact Denishenko just able to hold that position. As they make the way for the left-hander, well, we are waiting to see if any more pit stops coming in the meantime. Nothing reported so far from any of our leaders, but it is the case that all pressing on. And I can tell you that Harry Phillips, that last lap from Harry Phillips, to give you an idea, a 36.0 versus Oleg Zavolov on a 35.6. So Harry Phillips, in fact, getting those tyres back up to temperature quite rapidly as he makes his way on around. We'll have to wait and see whether he is able to pull off the jump back on Zavolov, as well. Luka Dogano, I should say, is in P4 right now, 11.4 seconds up the road, but we do believe Dogano will lose the position to Harry Phillips, and it will be the case that Phillips is really in that hunt versus Zavolov for P3, but right now he will just have to deal with the traffic that he's presented ahead. That's Martin Van Munster ahead, who moves wide there, and Harry Phillips is given all the space a day in order to come on through. Van Munster just keeping himself clear, and as they make the way on around here and in towards Wes turn number 10, both drivers are pressing on as they make the way out to left-hander and down towards turns 11 and 12 once again. Just up the road from him, however, he does have Joe Coffin running in P21 right now, who is chasing after what is Vittorio Simone as they make the way on around, and he is trying to get back into the top 20, but it's Vittorio Simone who holds on to the last top 20 spot at the moment as they come into turn number 13. As they make the way through in the meanwhile, we have 14 minutes to go, and well, one of the drivers who will be trying to gain as many places as humanly possible in the time remaining is Luca Sidor, but in terms of that campaign, it is 4.9 seconds to Francini, and there are a lot of gaps between himself and the next drivers up the road, so I think P18, perhaps P17 is the best he's going to do today, because we do have to keep in mind Dominic Linker in P15 has yet to take his second stop, but we'll have to wait and see how that does play out. As meanwhile, looking from Lucas Sidor to a bit further up the road, I can see it is the case that Victor Nicola here in P12 continuing that pursuit of Denishenko here. Denishenko putting a fantastic stint, but surely he must be coming in soon, or will he be running all the way to the end? Speaking of someone who's coming into the pits, that's Mattia Vacco, has to serve a 10-second penalty before they can do work on the car, and this is going to drop him a long way down the order, that 10-second penalty. He's already down to P12, whereas P13 Mentini Latonen. We can see Latonen here. In fact, this is going to be very close. The Audi driver's full speed down the start finish straight here. Where is Vacco going to be as they make the way into turn number 1? And it is the case that Latonen has gained the position here. So Timo Latonen has gained another place. He's up to P12. He doesn't have to make another stop, or at least not a mandatory stop, but there may be one on the schedule if he has to time things right. And as a result, right now the number 525 driver doing very nice indeed as he makes his way through turn number 3 and goes roaring on around and presses his way up towards turn number 7. And he will be aware of the fact that Vacco, having been staying in the pits, will have some quite cold tyres, which he's now got to bring up to temperature, which means for the Audi driver, this could be a good reading for him as he makes his way on around that. As the drivers continue to press around on circuit at this point in time, 12.5 minutes to go now. That clock continues to count down. We are seeing that we have got Dominic Linker in for his second and final stop, the T3 Motorsport driver from Germany. He will drop some way down the order as we see Vittorio Simone will go up to P19, unless I'm very much mistaken. He does indeed. And we see Joe Coffin there gaining a place as Harry Phillips comes on through that under blue flags. And as they make the way around right now, it is going to be the case that Linker has essentially lost out a good number of places and will drop down the order. In fact, I think right now he's dropped down all the way to about P22, unless I'm mistaken. There's Giovanni Izzo, P22, so I would say that Dominic Linker is P21, and there he is. He's dropped down to P21 and will now try to pursue after what is just up the road from him. That will be Joe Coffin for the final place in the top 20. But meanwhile, also into the pits right now, Pavlo Denishenko comes in for his second and final stop, and well, this is going to drop him some way down the order, but I think the Team Ballers Esport driver will be wary of that, and he will be looking to try and bring things to a natural conclusion here, as he's already dropping some places. Dropped down to P13, and as our drivers continue to come on through, where's P14 Mandrago Simon? We can see him here coming across that timing line. And what about David Brega here? Well, we can see the German driver coming on through, and I think Denishenko here could actually jump up to P14, depending on the length of the stop. Now, I'm just trying to see. Denishenko's left his pit box here, and I do think that for Brega, this is going to be a situation where he's not going to gain as they come into turn 1. Where's Denishenko? Denishenko's already come out, so it is the case. As you can see, there is... Well, no, my apologies. It's not the case. Where is Pablo Denishenko? He has, in fact, come out. Yes, he has come out in P14, and as a result, now as they come on through, it is the Team Ballers Esport driver Pablo Denishenko, who on a very different strategy compared to everyone else has gone from the back of the field to P14 with 10.5 minutes to go. Can he bring home P14 as he makes his way on and around and up through turn number 7 very shortly? And you can see behind him he does have Oleg Sobolov, who will be demanding that the blue flags are respected. The P3 driver, who is in effectively a strategic battle. Harry Phillips, he is let on through, but you can see by Denishenko having to give the position up at turn number 8. Look who's caught up behind very rapidly. That is David Brega, who's caught up, and we ride on board here with the Bentley driver. Now, chasing after his fellow Bentley machine, it will come down to how the drivers have set up the respective cars and also how they drive around here and their overall pace. I do think the Boatley Boys driver here, on paper, it could be argued, is a little bit faster. You can see that aggressive line into the apex of turn 11 versus a more wide and natural line from Denishenko. Brega's not holding back here. He wants this position. He wants to get himself a little bit further up into the top 15 as they make the way for the right-hander of 13. Now, where can he go for the potential move? He's getting a good run here out of 13 into 14. And I think this is going to be the prime opportunity as they make the way on free. You can see Denishenko goes defensive to the inside. Brega is going to be made to go around the outside. And as they make the way in the long run down towards the braking zone for turn number 1, it's a battle on the brakes here, and as they come on for it, it's a little bit of contact between the two drivers, and it is the case that right now, well, I think he needed to be a bit further ahead if he was going to force the move completely around the outside, but now he will know where he can gain versus Denishenko on the final couple of laps of this race. And with 9 minutes remaining and an average lap time of approximately 1.5 minutes, or just above 1.5 minutes, we're expecting there's going to be 6 more laps of racing to go here at Zandvoort Circuit. And my goodness, whilst the weather's been unpredictable, it has been quite unpredictable in terms of penalties and also overtakes, as we can see Brega trying to find his way on through here, but he just cannot versus Denishenko through the very tricky turn 7. But now as they head up towards 8, you can see Denishenko goes defensive there, making the German driver go wide, but the Ukrainian goes a little bit deep, and Brega's going to look up the inside, and into turn number 9 they go, but they're still side by side, and there's a bit of contact between the two of them there as they made their way out and tried to get back on the throttle. But it is the case the Boatley Boys driver has gained the position. Now, will the stewards frown upon that? That will be the question because of the contact. I would argue it's a racing incident there. They were both fair and gave one another room, but we will have to wait and see what the stewards say about that one as Brega moves up to P14. Meanwhile, a bit further up the road, I can see that Vedsfield is attacking Apostle right now as they make their way out of turn number 3, and it is the case that the Swiss is chasing down the Romanians as they make their way through turns 5 and 6 and up towards 7 here, and you can see how the Intruder Racing Team driver looks right into turn 7, but he's not close enough, and that was a very, very brave look there. I thought he was going to go all in. And I was going to say, well, he's definitely a gambling man. I think those are some odds which you don't want to gamble on as he looks it towards turn number 9 and he puts his nose in again, but he's not quite there. But what he's trying to do is get Apostle to go deep into the corner to open up more space into the next one. And you can see now Apostle's having to go defensive into turn 10. It's not what he likes because he can't get on the power cut. There's a little bit of a twitch down off the front end of the BMW. And now Vedsfield's going to be in a drag race here, but he's going to find himself on the outside in the run up towards the Audi chicane as they make the way into 11-12. You see coming for 11, Vedsfield has to go for the cutback here. He's trying to squirm every which way, but behind him is Victor Nikolai, who's in P10, and he's trying to also get into this fight for P8 right now. It is a mad scramble with only 7 minutes to go. We ride on board here with the BMW Sebastian Apostle, who is, I think, trying to get his teammate into the fight, who's in P10 behind. That's Victor Nikolai. And you see Vedsfield all over the back, and as they make the way, he comes into the pits. It is the case. In fact, he has to come in. I didn't remember the fact that he's got one more pit stop to do, so I think instead it was the case Apostle acted as a team player and deciding to try and back up Vedsfield into Nikolai in order to go on the offensive here on the final laps as they make the way through turn 2 and up towards 3 very shortly. As they go into turn 3, you can see the damage that's been done to Vedsfield's race and the fact that Nikolai's right there now. And of course, the thing is, they will know about the fact that Porsche is very strong through the second half of the lap. And that is what Vedsfield will be capitalising on. He will be using the Porsche's ability just to attack corners 7 through to 10 in order to be able to hold that gap firm. But Victor Nikolai, a very, very fast driver as they make the way through, and he goes wide there, and I think that could be it for a couple of laps now. He's going to have to find another way to push, but remember, track limits penalties as well. He won't have gained any time from that one, but he may get a little bit of a warning there from the automated steward in terms of don't go too wide, because you will eventually start to tick down your free runoffs, which are permitted, as we do see the West Competition Racing driver here keeping that momentum. Meanwhile, a bit further down, just outside the top 10, but trying to get into the top 10, we've got Mattia Vacca, the Team Bollers eSport driver, who is giving that pursuit of our last top 10 driver, Timmy Latonen, right now, who's been putting in a sensational performance in the Audi and has just kept himself out of trouble. But meanwhile, we have to cut away from them, because looking out my pit box window, also looking out my commentary box window into the pits, I should say, Luca Dogano's come in, and he is down to P6. Harry Phillips has got himself on through, but he has got some very nasty traffic here through turn number 3, and not nasty in terms of the driver, but in terms of where he's caught it. Oleg Sobolov has yet to appear as well, so the complexion of the rest of this race is going to be very unpredictable, as there's a stop and go 30-second penalty for Luca Dogano for speeding in the pit lane. Oh my goodness, and Luca Dogano, who was doing so well and looking at what was a potential chance of a top 10 finish, it's now all falling apart. And he will have to serve that before the end of the race, otherwise he will have a huge time penalty added to his end of race time. I think it's somewhere in the region of about 120 to 180 seconds, but Luca Dogano has got it all wrong, and indeed I can see that in the YouTube chat, Atomic Duck saying an F in the chat for Luca Dogano. I have to pay respects for a race that's been ruined, and indeed Luca Dogano with a one mistake on the pit limiter, and it's all unravelled. Meanwhile, into the pits, and hopefully not picking up a time penalty or a stop and go penalty, is Daniel Sherapinin, as we can see here, parked in the pits right now and being serviced. Now Sherapinin, to be fair, in what is essentially a bit of a moot battle with Luke Whitehead, we believe, in terms of he shows his quick pit stop, he's had the fuel put in the car, and it's Luke Whitehead who continues to lead this race, and I suspect will come into the pits at the end of this lap to react to Sherapinin. Meanwhile, Oleg Sobolov is now up into P2, but do remember, he has yet to take his final stop, and he is battling effectively with Harry Phillips for that P3 position on the podium as he makes his way on around. And as he comes away on through, we do also have into the pits Rafael Donato, who comes on in from P5 at the time, and Amadeo Castorino stays out. He has got one more pit stop to go, but this will mean Vesfield a little bit further back. You can see him there being chased by Victor Nicolai as they make their way down. They will gain to P6. They will move up to P5 once Castorino comes in. He's only got one or two more laps to come on in, so it isn't the case that he can stay out there forever as the drivers make their way on around right now. But we can see Vesfield here trying to hold off Victor Nicolai as they come on around, and he's got a lot of pressure on him right now, has the Swiss, as the Romanian driver looking to gain. A bit of dust being kicked up there from a driver up ahead, but we ride on board here with the BMW driver as he tries to close on down Vesfield as they make the way through turn 6 and up into 7. And as he makes his way under braking this time, well, you can see there, Vesfield just a little bit of sensitivity on the rear of the Porsche there, just starting to come a little bit loose where the fuel's coming out of the car, and Vesfield pushing to his utmost. But as they make their way through 8 and up into 9, no closure, but Vesfield actually cuts the inside here. He has to dive in with Gareth Mills there, giving them the space on the inside to come through. Both drivers make their way on through, and as they come through, Oleg Sobolov into the pit as they make their way on around, and Oleg Sobolov here, he's already parked up, and this is critical now. Where is Harry Phillips as Sobolov comes out of the pit? Harry Phillips making his way down the start finish straight. This is going to be very close. Harry Phillips was ahead before the pit stops, but as he comes on through, where's Oleg Sobolov? He's come out just ahead, and with 2.5 minutes to go, 2 more laps including this one, Oleg Sobolov has pulled off the jump. He's got ahead of Harry Phillips. Harry Phillips going early has not worked out, and now can Oleg Sobolov hold on for 2 more laps? Remember, his tyres will need to come up to temperature on this lap as a minimum, and Harry Phillips will need to go on the offensive right now as Castorino's into the pits from P5. That will drop him some way down the order, but meanwhile Oleg Sobolov soldiers on here with what is a brilliant piece of strategy, but can he make it count when it matters with 2 laps to go as he makes his way through the right into left, and as he comes into where's the right hander turn at number 8 here, the official corner turn number 8. It is the case that right now Harry Phillips tucked in behind, and I think the Porsche driver will be thinking, what have I got to do to get past Oleg Sobolov? Well, you've got to find a way to get that Ferrari to make a mistake early on, because they make their way through turn number 10. Oleg Sobolov switching the car on very early, and you see Harry Phillips there right behind. He's tucked in very close as they make the way down towards turn number 11, but he can't find a way through as Luke Whitehead is into the pits on the lead of this race, and I think it's going to be a very simple stop for Luke Whitehead, and we will be hoping it just goes as planned. But meanwhile, this battle for what is P3 just soldiering on and down towards what is turn number 13, and as they press on down in the meantime, I don't know why Lucas Ball has been listed there as in P4, ladies and gentlemen. I can assure you he's not in P4, and as they make their way around, Harry Phillips being listed as P3, that will flip in the near future. But Luke Whitehead has come out of the pits and he is on to the final lap of the race, we do believe, as Sherpin in P2 and then Oleg Zabolov at P3, and he is starting to now gap Harry Phillips by half a second as they go on to their final lap of racing, as they come on around. Meanwhile, in the battle for P5, we can see Victor Nikolai here tucked in behind still what is Vesfield as they come through turn 13. No change between these two as they make the way on around. In fact, I think we are going to be seeing another lap after the one they're about to go on to. It's going to be very close to whether we get one more lap of racing in, but you can see Vesfield breaking that toe, and Lucas Degano into the pits there at the rear of your pitch. He will drop down from P7 a long way down the order of a stop and go 30-second penalty. That will be detrimental to his race, as right now Victor Nikolai just continuing that pursuit of Vesfield, but he can't quite close up. But meanwhile, our race leader of Luke Whitehead, with 15 seconds to go, he's not going to go on to another lap. Well, he started this one, finishing off from where he wanted to end the last season in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship. He qualified on pole by only half a tenth, but with Tinker van der Velde retiring early, it gave him the space to breathe, and as he comes out the final corner, he is going to take the win in round number 1. Luke Whitehead, ladies and gentlemen, is your race winner at Zandvoort for the season opener in the World Tour Season 1. Crossing the line there, a fantastic drive from Luke Whitehead, and it will be Danila Sherapinin who comes home in a deserved P2 when all is said and done for S&P Racing Esports there. He wasn't quite there with the RHG driver, but still a brilliant P2 to set the tone to come, and it will be Oleg Zabolov through some strategic mastery who in the end pips Harry Phillips to the podium to P3, and Harry Phillips there comes home in P4 just in the rear of camera shot, as you can see there. Vesfield, well, he's still got Victor Nikolai right behind him as they make the way through the Audi chicane. Only 2 more corners as they come into the right hand here of turn number 13. Can Vesfield hold on, or will there be a bit too much pressure as they make the way on through? Well, you can see right now as they come through, I think he's done it, ladies and gentlemen. It will be Vesfield from Switzerland who brings home P5 ahead of the Romanian driver Victor Nikolai as they make the way on across the line. He's just about done it with Victor Nikolai coming home P6. And it'll be Timmy Latonen who in the end, I think he'll be a little bit shocked at this one, but it's come his way, and the Finnish driver for the Audi team, Team DTR Latonen, will come across line P7 when all is said and done, ahead of Mattia Vacca P8, and then it is going to be Rafael Donato P9, and in the last of our top 10 positions will be Amadeo Castorino here, the BMW driver, as the Italian crosses line P10 for Q-Lash Sim Racing, and it will be Dragos Simeon who comes home for West Competition Racing P11, ahead of what it is Sebastian Apostel there, and then the last 2 drivers to finish on the lead lap will be, I believe, David Boege in the Bentley there, the Boatley Boys driver P13 from Germany, and then it will be Luca Dogano here, who in a bit of a traffic jam right now, just trying to get to the end of this race, but all the drivers in front of him have finished their races. He will be the last driver to finish on the lead lap as Luke Whitehead there, just in front, I think, enjoying his run to the pits, and Luca Dogano is given the right to come through, and it was looking so good for a top 5, but stop and go 30-second penalty means that he finishes in the end P14 when all is said and done. But a fantastic race from start to finish as he crosses the line. And don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have our post-race interviews with our podium finishers coming up in approximately 4 to 5 minutes. You won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back and ready for our post-race podium interviews, and we'll be kicking off with our race winner, Luke Whitehead, who I believe is just making his way gradually towards the interview room at this point in time, and we'll be bringing him in very shortly. Now, just seeing in the chat there, a number of you saying about Luke's drive, particularly from Giorgio Conachia in the YouTube chat, and also Emil Blainer saying hello. Good to hear the racing going underway once again and catching the last couple of laps, and good racing always. It was an absolutely fantastic season opener. A lot of unpredictable moments, some very unfortunate mechanical issues, none more so than for Tinko van der Velde and also what was also Kevin Gelling, just to name two of a number of drives experiencing issues, and Zarai Guruyunan there in the YouTube chat, really enjoying the broadcast as well, and we'd love to hear that. But let's talk to one of our drivers who I think really did enjoy his race today, and that is Luke Whitehead. Let's bring him in. Hello, Luke. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Paul.
Luke, after what was an absolutely horrific end to your Intercontinental Challenge Championship in 2021 with NXTGEN, and well, the championship went away with you. You seem to have decided to start off the NXTGEN Series in 2022 on the brightest possible foot, not just with pole position, but also a dominant win. How does it feel to be on the top step of the podium at Zandvoort?
Feels great. It feels really good. It actually feels like quite a while since I've been on the top step, just in general. I've had the pace, I've had the consistency, but I've just not had the luck on my side. Obviously, at Spa last season, as you said, it was a pretty shambolic affair. Wasn't really all my fault. Obviously, some of that was self-inflicted, but I'm just glad I've been able to put that behind me and show the pace that I've had and just command it. Really, I mean, I'm gutted for Tinko. he was going to be my challenger for that race. You know, he was right behind me, and I was just kind of managing the race to begin with. And of course, he had that. I think he had a game crash, which is gutting for him. You know, I would have liked to battle with him. It's always a pleasure with him, but you know, a win's a win. You've got to take the opportunities that you get given, and I took that today and won by a decent margin. So I couldn't really be happier.
Oh, indeed. It looked as though you were enjoying yourself out on circuit and just reeling it all back. We started off with qualifying. We saw between yourself and Tinker van der Velde a constant back and forth with van der Velde striking first blood, taking provisional pole, and then yourself coming back on strong. Just take us through that qualifying session, because I think it was the case that for a good amount of time, it was almost as if you're trying to find that optimum lap just to snatch away that pole position.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Zandvoort is one of those tracks that is so difficult to get right because there's so many different variables, there's so many different lines you can take, and there's so many different bumps. You know, it's probably the bumpiest track on ACC. So it was, especially in the Porsche, it's extremely difficult because the Porsche just, you know, with the rear engine, it takes every bump really badly. So you've got to try and angle the car perfectly to get a lap done, and I didn't even get that at the end. I had probably a tenth and a half, I think, total. You know, my final lap was actually of the session. I went a tenth quicker in the final sector compared to what I had done on the previous lap, and I gained about half a tenth in the middle. So there was a lot of time on the table, but I'd have said Tinko probably had the same too. But yeah, as you said, it was just about trying to nail the best possible lap in that situation. And I think we both got pretty close in real terms. Obviously, we probably both had a little bit on the table theoretically, but yeah, I'm happy with the result in general. I'm happy with the job I did in quali. So
Oh, indeed. And then taking it through into the race itself, of course, the season opener, you always want to get off on the best possible start. But for the majority of the opening half an hour before Tinker van der Velde had the retirement due to technical issues, it really looked as though the two of you were pacing one another. Were you worried perhaps that you might have been doing a bit of more fuel saving behind you, given the Mercedes is quite poor in its fuel?
I mean, yeah, like I mean, the Merc is a lot better on its fuel now post update. So I was kind of hesitant to be worried about any sort of fuel saving or anything like that. I think I looked into this race going into it with two potential strategies. You either go ultra aggressive, do two tire changes, or you go really sort of conservative, just do one tire change. In hindsight, I think definitely the one tire change was better. That's the one I chose. But I was kind of wondering whether Tinko had gone the other direction. But you know, he is just really quick in his own right. The Merc is really strong nowadays, so I knew he'd be there. But as I say, round that track, as long as you get the exit of the final corner, as long as you get the exit up the hill, you're not going to get overtaken. It's just that's just how the track goes, and I knew that, I wasn't pushing. I was driving well within myself. I knew I could have gone a little bit quicker, but I had the gap under control. You know, Tinko wasn't quicker than me and wasn't slower. We were just kind of managing the gap, I think, to both of us. So it was all about just a bit of stalemate and just kind of seeing, right, the Merc catches me down the main straight and catches me in a little bit up the hill. I pull away through the middle sector through the turns and twisties. So it was all about just trying to eye each other out and just see where our strengths and weaknesses lie. So yeah, very, very strategic for that first part for sure.
Oh, indeed. And then I have to ask, obviously, it's the thing you don't want to see happen. Well, you want to see it at the time, but afterwards you may reflect on perhaps it took away some of the race. But when Van der Velde did retire, did that change the complexion of your race from that point onwards? Did you suddenly think to yourself, I've been given the biggest breather I could ask for? Or was it the case of just head down, get on with the race?
I mean, obviously, you look at the leaderboard and I go, "Oh, Tinko's gone." So I kind of got a little bit surprised and was kind of like, "Okay, this makes the race a lot easier." But I just thought I'm gonna do the job that I would have done anyway. Just keep driving as I would have done. I didn't change anything in my approach. Didn't drive any slower. Just kept pushing every lap. I didn't really need to, but I just wanted to make sure that I had the pace that I would have needed against Tinko, and I think I did. But yeah, I didn't change anything. I didn't want to change anything. I felt in a good rhythm. And I think even with a gap like that, if you're in a rhythm at a certain pace, just keep the pace every lap. There's no need to change anything. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't. And obviously, the gap in the end was quite sizable. So I'm happy with that.
Oh, indeed. And looking towards the end of the race, after making the two pit stops and then just bringing the car on home, of course, making that second pit stop a little bit later, after I think it was Daniel Sherpinin made his second stop. It seemed a little bit of a reactionary stop. Was it just a case of cruise it to the finish?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually a little bit nervous because in my second pit stop, I underfueled by I think about 2 liters. So I was worried. I knew I'd have to put a little bit more fuel in than I would have wanted to. Ideally, you just want to put 1 liter in and just go for it at the end of the race. But I had to put in I think 2 or 3 or 4, so it really wasn't that major. But yeah, as you said, just coming into the pits, I knew I'd have a big gap on the exit, and I just needed to cruise it home. So it actually worked out perfectly. I was worried that I'd have to put two laps of fuel in, but I only had to put one in because obviously the time had ticked down beyond 1:34, which is how long a lap is. So I could just take it pretty easy, put a couple of liters in, and just cruise it home. Cruise it home.
Oh, indeed. And we cruised home to the win. And now, next time out, we head to Imola in a week's time for the Italian circuit. How are you feeling for perhaps one of the trickiest circuits on the calendar?
To be completely honest, I don't actually know. I mean, historically, it's a strong track for the Merc. I found a pretty decent sweet spot pre-update for the Porsche, but now I don't really know. It's all about just doing the best job that I can do. I think the pace will still be decent, but I don't know till I get there. The form book could be completely out the window. The Porsche could be absolutely awful around there. I have no idea. But we'll just have to see. I'll have to practice, put some work in, and just make sure I'm on the best possible form for that race and the races after.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on in a week's time. But until then, thank you for joining us in the interview room, and congratulations, Luke, on what was a brilliant drive to victory at Circuit Zandvoort.
Thank you very much, Paul. Take care of yourself.
You too. So hearing there from Luke Whitehead, very happy with how things went, and particularly I think really just establishing that early momentum. And as you were saying, particularly in the battle with Tinko van der Velde before van der Velde's retirement, not really too worried about managing his race versus van der Velde, just running to a particular pace. And even after the retirement of van der Velde, what was very interesting to hear from Whitehead there, talking about the fact that he didn't suddenly take his foot off the gas or suddenly down himself away from somewhere around that sort of 90 to 95%, reaching down to 80%. Kept the pace, kept in the rhythm, and that's what enabled him to open up such a gap that when he did need to think about potentially doing a little bit of fuel saving or just managing that second pit stop on the end of the race, he could afford to do so. Now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, as we come on to our second place driver, and that is Daniel Sherapinin in the number 777 car, unfortunately, I haven't been able to secure the time of Daniel Sherapinin. Alternatively, Oleg Zabolov, the number 14 driver who finished third for a post-race interview. I am just checking. No, I haven't had to be able to secure their time. So as a result, we are going to be bringing our post-race podium interviews to an end early today. But in terms of just talking about their races, I think it's appropriate that we talk about their races in turn. Daniel Sherapinin, to be fair, having a very good race, and what I would argue with Daniel Sherapinin, really the best of the rest before the rest of the field, you could argue. So Luke Whitehead and Tinko van der Velde, I think, had the pace today to just be out there on their own, but only by about 3 to 4 tenths a lap when they were pushed versus Daniel Sherapinin. Sherapinin, by comparison, being there and just enough to pace away from the rest of the field, particularly Harry Phillips and Oleg Zabolov and all the pursuing packs. I think for Sherapinin, it's going to be very interesting in terms of how the Russian driver approaches the rest of this season, because they'll know now, based on what is round number 1, they seem to have a small pace deficit versus Whitehead and Tinko van der Velde, and that is exacerbated over the 90-minute race distance. But keep your eyes on Sherapinin. I do think, much like what we saw in the Intercontinental Challenge Championship, Sherapinin will come on strong, particularly as we go towards what is rounds 3 onwards. We should be seeing the Mercedes driver really come alive. Now, as for Oleg Zabolov's race, really the best of the rest today, I would argue, outside our top 2 finishers, in that battle all the way through the race with Harry Phillips, and in the end making it work by simply staying out longer than Harry Phillips. He did encounter some traffic, much like Harry Phillips did, but in return, I think it was the case of Zabolov just able to take that second stop at a more opportune moment, a bit deeper into the race. And as a result, I would say we're going to be seeing an interesting rivalry between the Wild Things Racing and the S&P Racing esports driver, in the fact that I think Zabolov has struck the first stance of momentum versus Harry Phillips, but we saw how strong Harry Phillips was in the Porsche, and it was only really in the build-up to that second pit stop where Phillips seemed to be struggling a little bit on the tyres. But we know the Porsche can be a little bit sketchy on the tyres, but the Ferrari can be as well, so it's going to be an interesting dynamic between the two of them, and there's no reason why we won't be seeing the pair of them on the podium, perhaps even together at some point, or sharing a spot on the podium at some point in terms of battling for it. So as a result, whilst we're not going to be hearing from Daniel Sherapinin or Oleg Zabolov today, just some thoughts to go ahead with two very fast drivers, and it'll be interesting to see how their championships play out. Now with that means that's all we got time for today, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for tuning in. And I can see there in the YouTube chat, Davidoff 2001, I do believe that may be David Boyga there, saying, good race, mates, sad to the drive-through penalty. And also in the Twitch chat, I can see Sweet Lerb there saying, good evening, folks, and good evening to you, Lerb. Well, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to hear so many of you have enjoyed it, whether you're drivers or just spectators in the stands cheering on your favourite drivers. And if you do want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, why not check us out, our official website, that's nextgenracing.co.uk. Alternatively, our Facebook group, that's facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. Also, a big thank you to our partners without whom it would not be possible to bring you this series, and they'll be with us all the way through. That is the SimGrid at thesimgrid.com and Coach Dave Academy at coachdaveacademy.com. But now we must pack up our tools and head to Italy. We go from the Netherlands to Italy, for in a week's time, we head to the Autodromo International Enzo Edino Ferrari, or Imola in short, for round number 2 on Tuesday, the 22nd of February 2022. A circuit that favours cars which are strong in the power but also very comfortable over the curbs, and it could be the day of the Mercedes AMG Evo. We'll just have to wait and see. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. We have been Next Gen Racing. I have been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit and a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.